So I want to welcome everybody to the first annual Graduation Nation Community Summit. My name is Chris Chapman. I'm Executive Director of African American Male Achievement, and I'd like to start the morning with everybody repeating after me. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about the children. I learned that quote from an extraordinary brother that's been advocating for African American male children, African American children, children of color for years. And I would not do justice to this event if I didn't start this morning in acknowledging one of my elders. So at this point, I'd like, just for folks, to give a warm welcome and acknowledgement to Brother Oscar Wright. Can we give him love and appreciation? 91-year-old African American male that's been advocating for our children for years. Thank you, Brother Oscar. I appreciate you. So y'all, really in that quote, I want to thank everybody that made it here this morning for taking up your Saturday to be here in service of our children. That means a lot to me, and it means a lot to our children. And really today is a day to come together to lift up the voices of our kings, to lift up folks who play an instrumental role in supporting graduation rates for boys of color, and then to work together ultimately to make a commitment to what we're going to do on Monday of this next week. And so today you're going to hear a lot of amazing things that's working in the city of Oakland. But I want to start with a sister that brought me to tears at an event a few weeks ago at the Hub in Oakland. And we had another amazing educator named Christopher Emden. Has anyone heard of him, Christopher Emden? I want you to Google him. He's an educator and has a TED Talk called Reality Pedagogy. And this brother has come up with what he calls the 5 C's. And just an amazing educator. And so we heard him speak, but prior to hearing him speak, there was a sister named Tatiana that stood in her truth and shared a part of her essence with everybody there that night. And I was so moved that as soon as she walked off that stage, I said, I need to build with you. And so I'd like to open this space for Sister Tatiana to come on in and remind us why we all are here today. So give some love to Sister Tatiana, please.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tatiana Willis. I'm a local spoken word artist, poet. One of the organizations that I work with often is Youth Speaks. And so they had a competition called the Raise Up Project, which was about the dropout crisis in America, that 1 million children drop out of school every year. And so what they did was encourage kids, I believe 13 to 25, to write about their experience with education and how they felt about the education system. And so this piece that I have is from that competition. Careful the things you say, children will listen. Careful the things you do, children will see and learn. Into the woods of every city, patty cakes are made by bakers' men with affections for Pyrex and bitter soda. A thunderous clap ignites a familiar shuffle. The bell is broken, an avalanche of witnesses, 7,000 bodies encased in a silhouette of white chalk. See, painted lines will guide you to believe in a defined structure. But this chaos assures you tomorrow is not promised. That is 1 million or 1/5 or every 26 seconds. However you were taught to do ratios, 7,000 children drop out of school every day. There is a rise in the number of children who have run out of options. Could you imagine a quadratic formula for this slippery slope? When these plotted points don't connect the dots to a graphic life, we need better math. A statistics that don't bring about a Great Depression, or how about a social studies where the underdog wins one? I just wish they could understand that it is hard to cross the stage when you have to cross enemy lines to get there, that you cannot fill the empty bellies of your family with food for thought. America, you never teach children how to speak, only when spoken to, never when spoken about. And I know it can't be easy to teach my brothers and sisters to raise their hands when they are being shot and murdered for being raised at all. But my people, it is time to raise our voices. It is time to stand for the 1 million who have already fallen. Careful the things you say, children will listen. Children may not obey, but children will listen. So careful before you say, listen to me. Thank you.
When GradNation came to us to host a community summit around increasing graduation rates for boys of color, they had their take, but we contextualized that in the city of Oakland. So again, man, I'm so blessed to be in front of all of you today, but it ain't about me. It is so much about us on how we work collectively to support Tatiana, to support the young brothers and the ties who all attend Oakland Public Schools. Daniel Ortega, who you're going to hear from, who's an Oakland Public School graduate, who navigated the streets to graduate from UC Berkeley, and not only graduated college and career ready, is community ready. So y'all, what you put in today will be what you get out of it. So if this is a passive experience, I know I need the mic because we're videotaping this, but I'm standing in my truth right now. But we are here for the children. The cavalry ain't changed. The cavalry is not, really the cavalry is all y'all. You with me? If it's gonna change, we gotta look to each other, not at each other. And so every youth, y'all, just bear with me today. When the youth come up and they stand in your truth, like, get up out your seat, give them some love, man, connect with them. That's what today's about. We're not gonna change the world in one day. But today's to lift up what works. What works is being in community. So all that to say, I'm about to step to the mic, and I got to introduce another amazing brother. Now, Brother Chris started African American Male Achievement back in 2010, and I stand on the backs of so many other folks that have been advocating for boys of color in this city for years. But institutionally, Tony White, superintendent back then, had the audacity to leverage his privilege to create a department to address the needs of students who this system has not been serving for decades, and bring that group closest to our hearts. Now that I'm in my third superintendency, I tell you, I am so excited, I'm so blessed, but I'm like, it's not a question, will we do this? We're doing it, and we're about to take it to a whole nother level. With the brother right now that's taking the reins of this school district, that has the structural understanding of how a system needs to work in service of students. So we're going to take some of the things that we learned from African American Male Achievement and apply that now universally to boys of color, to our Latino and Chicano brothers, to our Asian Pacific Islander brothers. And so I just want y'all, our next brother who's actually going to address us is an extraordinary brother that I look forward to learning from, growing with, and serving, is Superintendent Antoine Wilson. If you can give some love for our superintendent of Oakland Unified School District. And the thank yous are right there too for you.
Good morning. Good morning. Unfortunately for you, I cannot sing. At least not publicly. But I can speak a little bit, although not as eloquently as Tatiana. So let's give it up for her one more time, please. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited, more importantly, to be the superintendent here in Oakland Unified. It was really a dream come true. Just tell you really quickly, some of you have heard this. Growing up as a young person, going into kindergarten, I asked my mother, single parent mother, 18 years old, when she had me. I was her first child. She was taking me to kindergarten, actually getting me ready to go on the bus to kindergarten. I must not have been too excited about it. I asked her, when is this school thing end? She told me when I graduated college, it would end. Anyways, growing up, I had dreams of being the next Thurgood Marshall. I wanted to pursue issues of social justice. I wanted to focus on issues of civil rights, and never thought I'd be drawn to education. And the issues of social rights and social justice was important to me because growing up where I grew up, there were a number of things going on. But I can tell you, one of the things going on is the benefits of privilege and the very clear reality that I wasn't one of the people who benefited. And so I wanted to pursue that opportunity. And I ended up getting an education, learning that I could pursue issues of social justice through education. And it just so happened last April, I was interviewing for the superintendent position at Thurgood Marshall Elementary School. So I had visions of Thurgood Marshall, but I didn't realize it was to lead me here to be the superintendent here in Oakland and not to be a Supreme Court justice. I'm much more excited to be here in Oakland, to be the superintendent here than I think I would have been being a Supreme Court justice, because it allows me to work very closely to young people and ensure that their dreams are fulfilled, same as mine were. But before I get started, I do have a few words I want to share with you, but I would want to take a few moments to acknowledge some people. They'll be in and out throughout the day and also help support this event. And so if they are here, certainly they stand up and be recognized. We have a tremendous school board. And we have three individuals, three directors who, if not here already, will certainly make their appearance here. So I just want to acknowledge Jody London, Jamoke Hinton Hodge, yes, please, and Roseanne Torres. And so as they come in today, please take a moment to speak to them, ask them questions, acknowledge them, share your thoughts and comments, because I can tell you that they spend a great deal of time thinking about the issues that face us and focus on ensuring that all of our students are thriving. Also want to just recognize from City Council Lynette McElhaney, and my understanding is she'll be here today, so let's give it up for her as well. Also want to thank Crystal Morris with GradNation. Please. And as this is an important event that we're all passionate about, we want to make sure that we're giving these acknowledgments to these various individuals, that we go ahead and give it up with great enthusiasm. So OUSD family and student engagement. So Kim Ship, Aurora Lopez, Raquel Jimenez. And let's give it a very wide reception to our All-City Council. These students are just tremendous, and they play a tremendous leadership role in this district. And then we are here at Laney College, and there's great leadership here, and we just are appreciative of the partnership with Laney. So Dr. Lenora Webb, Trudy Walton Keys, Louis Marides, Canetta, Jackie Burris, and the student aid and volunteers. Let's give it up for them as well. And then also we have sponsors here that help make this event possible, and so that's AT&T sponsors. We have Ken McNeely, Darren Chan, and Gwen Oldham. So let's give it up for them. We have a very prominent member of Congress that represents this district, this area, in our U.S. Congress, and just her leadership has been tremendous. I've had an opportunity to work with and spend some time with her. I can tell you how passionate it is this issue of kids of color, young men of color, having access to the best of what this country has to offer, and she's going to be here to address you later. So Congresswoman Barbara Lee, so let's go ahead and give it up for her as well. And then finally, I just want to take a moment. One of the things that I got most excited about coming to Oakland is the work that had been done leading the country. And I don't know, I work in the space of education, and I can tell you, I've been in a number of different states, a number of different places. This is my 5th state in a short period of time. Well, it's over 20 years. But what I will say is this. In education circles, putting a focus on African American male achievement is a very difficult thing to do. The data is quite clear that the focus needs to be there, but to have the courage to do it, as Chris just mentioned, former superintendent here in Oakland led the way, in Oakland Unified, in the city of Oakland embracing it, that was one of the things that got me extremely excited. But you can name it, but you have to have someone who can carry the torch and carry it with passion and then spread it and infect the rest of the country. So much so, as you think about this, that our President of the United States, through his My Brother's Keeper campaign, is now doing this work across the country, and it started right here. So I just want to take a moment to give it up to AMA and Executive Director Chris Chapman, because I've just been so impressed with his leadership. I just have a few things that I want to say. First off is I want to just share this. Like Malcolm X, who said that I, for one, believe that if you give people a thorough understanding of what confronts them and the basic causes that produce it, they'll create their own program. And when the people create a program, you get action. Folks, what we need to do is we need to make it clear to our young people that we expect them to graduate. We expect them to be successful. I get so frustrated when I come across individuals who talk about the challenges as though that they are brick walls or impenetrable obstacles that should somehow mean that our young people cannot be successful. I expect you to be successful. Every young person that I come across and they tell me, well, I'm not been suspended, I'm breaking the norm. Young brother, you are not expected to be suspended. In fact, most African American males and Latino students are not suspended. Unfortunately, happen to be in a system and in a society that has perpetuated, proliferated suspensions and means of getting kids out of school as a means of controlling situations and moving forward discipline. But the fact remains that in spite of being in that system, the overwhelming majority of young men of color are not suspended. They are in school. They want to be in school. They want to be educated. So I want to make sure that we get the message clear that we want our young men to be successful. We expect them to be successful. And in fact, they come to us with great assets. And it's our responsibility to communicate collectively as a city that we have full faith in their abilities, and we're going to wrap our arms and support around them to ensure that they fulfill their full potential. So what are we here to do? We are here to ensure that our students complete their full education. By full education, it's the same message that my mother shared with me. You will graduate college. You will. Whether you want to pursue a 4-year institution, a 2-year institution, that is your business. But you are going to get that done. And we should make sure that they understand that. But it's not just that. We want them to gain sustaining careers. Careers that sustain them and allow them to take care of their families and to give back. We want them to be productive individuals who are successful in their personal lives and who give back to their communities and to their society. That's what this idea of being community ready is all about. It's recognizing that you owe. You owe. There are individuals who invest in you, and the greatest gift that you can give is to meet your full potential so you can invest in others. And that's what community is, and that's what community does. The challenge we're faced with is making sure that we inspire the belief in our young men that we expect them to graduate. You won't hear me talk about the challenges of crime. You won't hear me talk about the challenges of dropout rates. Those are opportunities for us to address. There's no reason why our young people have to drop out at the rates that they do. There's no reason why they should not be able to graduate. But we expect them to be successful. So the challenge is to inspire that belief in our young men that we expect them to do so. Another challenge, that we expect them to be engaged. We expect them to lead. We are proud of them, and we will rally and support them, and we will lead them. Those are all things that we are here to do, and so I get so excited when I see the young brothers around and they're here in suits and they're showing what they are capable of, and that they are setting themselves up to show that they are doing what we expect them to do, what they're more than capable of doing. So why should we lead this in Oakland? Well, we have extremely talented young people. They have a great deal of strengths, academic strengths, civic strengths, and creative strengths. This city is a cultural hotbed. It's a place that provides the rest of the country glimpses to what is the best about this country. Right here in Oakland, we should be setting up to lead. Why? Because we have leadership. Whether it's through the African American Male Achievement, whether it's through the community emphasis or the focus on student leadership, we have a focus on leadership throughout the city, throughout the community, that I believe sets the stage for the country to do this work well. We have the cultural diversity and the diversity of thought. There's not one way to do it and one best practice. And the great thing about Oakland is that individuals aren't afraid to come and say what they think and believe that's going to move this work forward. And that's a strength. We also have the partnerships and potential for more. So we have partnerships. Many of you most likely know this, but we think about millions of dollars being invested by Atlantic Philanthropies, which are going to support the increase in linked learning opportunities for our students, career-based opportunities, but also Bechtel Foundation, Kaiser, and many others have stepped forward and said we want to partner here in Oakland, Clorox Foundation, so on. So what I want to say to you is I'm extremely proud to be here. I want us to wrap our minds around the fact that our students do come to us with great strengths, and it's our responsibility to help them be successful. I'd like to ask just really quickly if you are a young man of color, if you could stand up, please. If you're a young man of color, stand up, please. Let's give it up for these young men. I see some not standing. They should all stand. Absolutely. Give it up. Young man, what I want you to know is that there's a community here that believes in you, that knows that you are awesome, that knows that you are extremely intelligent, that you have great strengths and assets, and that we expect you to be successful. And as we go through this day, that this day is about you and making sure that we're doing everything that we can to help you be successful, to help you thrive. In a country that generates over $6 trillion in revenue, folks, that the young people, that's 12 zeros. 12 zeros. There's no reason why every one of our young people shouldn't be successful and get a piece of that pie. Now, what I want to say is this. I want to close with this. Folks, there's some things that I believe about young people, and if you believe them too, then I would love for you to say just like me. And if you really believe it and you say just like me, then you should say so that convinces these young men that you really do believe it. Don't kind of say it under your breath. Say it for real. If this resonates with you, then I want to hear you shout it back to me that you believe. I am proud to be in Oakland. What I want to hear you say is just like me. Okay, here we go. I'm glad to hear you. I believed you. I believe you. We'll go again. I'm proud to be in Oakland. I believe in the young people of Oakland. I believe they have great strengths. Just like me. I believe in their dreams. I believe in their families. I believe that the challenges that they face should not be excuses for them not succeeding. That'll get you to say just like me. Just like me. And I will ensure that we get the job done. They will all thrive, people. Let's have a great day. I really look forward to experiencing the day and hearing from these young people. Thank you.
Hey, one more round of applause for our superintendent, Antoine Wilson. So while we're looking for his gift bag, I just want to I want to break it down a little bit. I had the honor of working with another extraordinary brother, Tommy Smith. One of the things I learned from him as we launched a program called the Tommy Smith Youth Track Meet was that to be an extraordinary leader, it can be extraordinarily lonely at times. And sometimes you can't do what's popular. You have to do what's right. And I'm going to tell you, y'all, we need to support Antoine Wilson because he's an extraordinary brother, he's an extraordinary leader, and he has our children's best interests in mind. So please, one more time, give some love to Superintendent Wilson. We appreciate you, brother, and look forward to supporting you. So a couple more acknowledgments. So when America's Promise reached out to me, there were two brothers I called who I want to make sure I acknowledge that, man, cleared their schedule, and they're very busy gentlemen that were thought partners for me in kind of coming up with this vision. They're also sponsors of the work as well. And I want to make sure, one has been a mentor to me, and I wouldn't be here in the position I am if it wasn't for something he saw in me back in 1996 and reached out to me when I was doing work in San Francisco and said, brother, you need to come on over to Oakland, where I was living, and do some work in the YMCA. So I want us to put our hands together for an extraordinary brother that's been working in our community for years, leading the YMCA of the East Bay, Dr. Robert Wilkins. Can we give some love for Robert Wilkins and the YMCA of the East Bay? Thank you. Thank you, Brother Rob. The YMCA is supporting this event. And then another brother who I'm just so impressed with, a father, an educator, and now is the executive director of the Ed Fund for the Oakland Unified School District, Brian Stanley. Let's give some love for Brian Stanley, too, and his leadership. So in the spirit of time, if you registered, we have everyone's email. I'm going to send everybody the GradNation YouTube link for the video. But I want to kind of keep this program moving in the spirit of capturing the folk that are here and acknowledge this next brother. So I've come to believe that really the truth is told through the arts. And as we speak and we conjecture and we pontificate, it's our artists who are making sense of what we're doing on a whole nother level. So I was blessed to come into knowing of this brother named Picasso through another extraordinary artist, Brother Jahi. And brother Picasso does these renderings at hip-hop shows like Jay-Z and Nas and others, where he captures this while the concert is going. He's doing art. He's capturing the essence on canvas. And so we asked him to come on out from the East Coast and spend the day with us and capture the essence of this morning's session where we're lifting up the voices of our students and adults committed to improving graduation rates for boys of color. We're going to hear from him later, but when we close this session, he's going to share his rendering with all of us. But if we can give Brother Picasso an Oakland welcome, give him some love right now. Put your hands together for Brother Picasso. We appreciate you, brother. We see you as you see us. So how many people at this point, and I want you to raise your hands proudly, have tweeted, have texted, have Instagrammed or Facebooked something you saw or heard yet? I'm just curious. I want to see. Put your hands up. So check it out, y'all. We live in a very different era. And we cannot no longer allow television to tell our vision. A lot of why our kings see themselves the way they see themselves is because television doesn't tell the whole story. And we can take that back now with this. So I'm saying, please don't let this day go beyond you without taking a picture, without using video, without capturing a positive image of one of the beautiful brothers that you see here today, or the speakers, and Instagram that, tweet that, Snapchat that, what's the other one? Facebook that. But if we don't tell our story, the story won't get told. I'm curious to know, members of the press, how many members of the press we have here today? Wonderful. We have Baba Gerald. Thank you, Baba Gerald. Let's give Baba Gerald some love. Let's give Baba Gerald some love. So, and I know Baba Gerald is telling a real story. We appreciate you. He writes for the Tribune and does blogs. He's also an extraordinary brother with the Brotherhood of Elders. Because the other thing that's kind of happened in our community is there's been an intergenerational disconnect, where the next generation is no longer passing the baton to the next generation, is no longer passing the baton to the next generation, which is no longer passing the baton to the next generation. But you know what? In Oakland, it's happening. It's happening. Between black and brown and my Asian brothers. We're doing it, and we're getting better, and we're getting stronger. But Baba Gerald, Brother Oscar, and other elders that are here today, that of which I've seen before as well, I want to thank you for the work that you're doing. So let's give our elders some love, and let's make sure we use our cell phones. All the hashtags are up top. We have our Facebook, our Instagram, so that's going to be up there for most of the day. So please, let's use this. Outside of the pencil and paper, this has now become the most powerful weapon to change the narrative. So now I have an extraordinary honor, and I love it. I so love it when I have the opportunity to work with a young man when he's a child. And then that young man has gone from childhood to manhood. And now he's become my role model and my real model. And he's been touched by the community in such a way, he's given it back. So this next brother that I'm going to introduce up, and I'll introduce the youth that are going to come up too, so hopefully all the youth are here. He's going to moderate our youth panel. This brother moved me when he was a young brother, attending Oakland Public Schools back in the 90s, and he's continued to move me since. But I want you all to give some love for one of our role models, our real models, Brother Daniel Moore. Let's give him some love, Brother Daniel Moore. Come on, brother. Give it up for Daniel Moore. Come on, put your hands together. This is the narrative we want to tell. So I'm going to let him share a little bit of his story, but first I'd love for the young brothers, and if we have some young brothers in the back, if big people can help little people help make their way down here, I'm going to call out their names and then hand the mic over to Brother Daniel. Deontay Jackson, Brother DJ. Let's give Brother DJ some love. Attends Oakland Technical High School, and he was here earlier. Brother Jahi, if you could look out for, oh, here he is. Give him some love. Brother Luis Ramirez from Castlemont High School. Brother Luis Ramirez. Please make your way on down. Oh, they're right here. That's what I'm talking about. Good morning, brother. Brother Mac McGee, concurrent enrollment. I love this brother. He's going to tell the story too. Here we go. Give love to Brother Mac. Another extraordinary brother. I'm blessed to have him as my intern as well, a former tech student now at Met West, which, man, one of the best kept secrets in Oakland. Met West High School. You talk about college and career ready. Tuesdays and Thursdays, the students at Met West are in internships. They're in the community, in businesses. So for my business community and folks, you're figuring out a way to help our youth, provide an internship. So Toussaint, put your hands together for Brother Toussaint Stone, and his family's here too. Toussaint, come on out. Love you, brother. Another brother, oh my goodness, this brother has moved me, he's moved my sons. He's a graduate from Oakland Unified School District, from Brookfield Elementary School, a graduate from Tech, a graduate from UC Berkeley. Now he's working at Castlemont High School, providing college and career advising. Give it up for Brother Deshar Young. Brother Deshar. Yes, yes. Man, Dewey, another amazing place. The one thing that is universal at Dewey High School with every adult on that campus, when you ask them about educating children, they educate from love. They educate from love. That's what I'm talking about. Let's give it up for Brother Gabriel Lopez, please. Gabriel. Yes, yes. And last but definitely not least, we want to call out Brother Benjamin Pablo, please, from Oakland High School. Benjamin Pablo, come on out. And so one thing I didn't do is in your bags, the way that folks will have the opportunity to pose questions, but to help manage that today, is there are three by five cards in your bag. If you have a question, write your question on the 3x5 card, and then you'll send it down to the last person in your aisle. And we have, on this side, we have Brother Romero and Brother Trey. Can you raise your hands, brothers? They will be runners, so if you have a card on the last aisle here, they'll grab it and they'll bring it all the way down here, and they'll give it to me, and then I'll give them to Daniel Mora. On this side, we have Brother TJ, Brother Eddie. I can't have my glasses on. I think that's Brother Armand. They're going to grab the cards on this way. So if you have a question, you'll write it down, send it to the end. We'll have runners grab the cards and we'll bring them down. But now, again, let's turn to our youth panel and let's give another round of applause for Brother Daniel.
Buenos dias. Good morning. Thank you for waking up on this Saturday and getting here. Many of us maybe had long Friday nights, long weeknights, long school nights. So thank you so much for making the effort to be here. I'm honored to be here. My name is Daniel Mora, and in honor of what was being said just a little while ago in regard to the elders and the young people and reconnecting that bridge, I have a short story that I would like to share. There was a really small village, and there was a really long bridge connected to it that not many of the young men had crossed over. And one day, one of the young men, he told his mom, he said, "Mom, I want to go across that bridge." And she said, "Well, I'll see what I can do. I'll speak to some of the elders in the community, and I'll see if they can cross you through the bridge." He said, "I'm ready. I want to go. Can I just go now? Can I get some friends? I can go alone. I'm ready. What do I have to do?" She said, "Just be patient. I'll bring them to you." Sure enough, a group of elders come to the village and tell that young man, "Tonight we cross this bridge, and what I want you to do, I want you to go around through the village, and I want you to gather as many people as you can. Elders, young people, your friends. Tell them that we're crossing. Tell them that at the other side of this bridge, there's happiness, there's joy, there's support, there's community, where you can do what you want to do. You're going to be supported. Tell them that at the other side of this bridge is health. That at the other side of this bridge, there's no competition. There's no hatred." So he went around through the village and he said, "Hey, we're going to cross the other side. We're going to cross this bridge together. Who wants to go?" And some of the elders looked at him and said, "We don't want to go. We're fine where we're at." Some of the elders were like, "I want to go." Some of his peers said the same thing. "I don't want to go. I'm fine where I'm at." And some of them said, "I want to go." So he had 5 people. 2 of them were youth, 3 of them were elders, including himself. So he goes back to the elders and he says, I got some people. Not many wanted to come. And that's hard for me to do. For me to want to leave this village and cross this bridge, it's hard for me to leave my people behind. What do I do? And he says, well, you have the people who are ready. So let's go. But before we cross, I want to tell you that through this bridge, you're going to have a lot of temptations. You're going to have a lot of peer pressure. In fact, there's going to be drugs that are going to get you so high. There's going to be a big pile of money that is going to allow for you to live and buy whatever it is that you want to buy. It's a scheme. You may not ever get caught. There's going to be a whole lot of peer pressures and a whole lot of things available to you that is going to tempt you to want to stay and not cross the bridge. So they started to walk. It was about a 5-mile bridge, a long bridge. Within the first mile, sure enough, they seen a huge pile of money. And the elders looked back to the young people and the group and said, you guys see that pile of money? Who's going to stay? And who wants to keep walking? They looked at each other. Sure enough, one of the people stayed at that pile of money. They kept walking. Within the next mile, drugs were available. They would get them so high that would take them from the struggle, from the pain of what they were going through. Sure enough, 2 of them stayed back. So now it's only 2 left. As they were getting closer to the end of that bridge, there was another offer on the table. An offer of living a life of crime that would guarantee that you may not ever get caught doing. And they would see that as they were crossing this bridge, there was a lot of people, a lot of men stuck on that bridge who were offering them a lot of things. And sure enough, another one stayed back to live that life of crime. So now we have 2 people. They crossed that bridge. And the elders told these 2 people, young people, there's something I want from you. Now, what could they possibly want from these young people? Money? I don't know. So they asked, what do you want? And the elders said, I want for you to remember that path, that journey of how you got here, of all that temptation, that while you're trying to get to your final destination, remember that journey that you came from, all the peer pressures, everything that's going to be available to you, everything that people are going to offer you. And one of the young men said, I'm ready to go back and gather some of my people, gather some more men, grab the men that are stuck on that bridge and grab the men that are back in the village. I'm ready. I remember the journey. And the other one said, in fact, not only am I not going to go back, not only am I not even going to stay here, I'm going to go far away, because if I go back to my community, if I go back through that journey, I know that I'm not ready for it. I understand that I'll not be able to make it. And I share that story because here in Oakland and in a lot of inner cities, we have a lot of young people that, even if it's just for a year, maybe 2 years, need to leave the community, need to recollect their thoughts. And there's some young people that are ready to go back into that community and help grab some young people, some elders, and spread about their own journey. And we have to be okay with both, especially when we send them away to college. Or if they get a job elsewhere, we have to be okay with that. But at least to tell them that it is a great thing if they came back and talked about their path and talked about their journey. And hopefully they will be ready one day. Now, ladies and gentlemen, My story. My parents came here from Mexico with a 5th grade education. How many parents do we have in the room? Can you raise your hand if you are parents? Okay, thank you. Now, of those parents, how many of you graduated from college? Great thing. My parents came here with a 5th grade education, and they left Mexico from one area of poverty to another. I was born and raised in the West Oakland Acorn Projects, and long story short, they were torn down. There was a lot of stuff happening. There was a three-block apartment complex of the Acorns. When they tore down, moved over to East Oakland. And my first day in junior high, I was already on probation, and it was mandated for me to go to school, which made me resent it even more. When I was in the 6th grade, you're looking at a middle school dropout. I dropped out of school for a whole year in the 6th grade. I hated school. I felt it wasn't for me. I was a kid in the back, throwing paper balls, writing my name on the walls. And I ended up getting incarcerated in juvenile hall from the age of 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I buried a lot of my friends, some of them on wheelchairs. A lot of the young women were getting pregnant. And we weren't reaching out for help. I was kicked out of different schools, and I was in a lot of different institutions, and I didn't know how to speak out. I was embarrassed. There was nobody who looked like me reaching out to me. Until one day, a probation officer came to my cell and said, "Daniel, the only way that you're going to get out of this lifestyle and make something of yourself is if you are ready to make that change. Now I'm going to offer you some support. There's a mentor that I want to help you." And so for the first time, I'm like, a mentor, an adult in my life? I don't trust no adults. My parents had divorced. There's a lot of issues happening at home, in my community. You know, we don't really support, we don't talk, we don't sit in a circle. And what happened to me was I was connected with a mentor who looked like me. And for the first time, I seen myself as a 30-year-old man. I thought of myself as dying at a really young age from a gunshot wound or either in prison. And this individual took me to the DMV. I got my regular ID, re-enrolled me in school, got me a job. My first job was a youth employment partnership. I actually helped them move from Fruitvale to 23rd. Taking out the garbage can for Miss Michelle Clark, who's still the ED there. And then I just started working. I started there as a janitor, just taking out the trash and sweeping and mopping the floors. And then I started sitting in on different workshops. Next thing you know, I was sitting in front telling my own story, my own transformation. And it was time for me to graduate high school. I graduated high school, went off to community college. I came here. Then I went off and graduated from UC Berkeley, and throughout my entire time of being in school, it wasn't an easy journey. I would get phone calls, "Hey, you know, let's go party, let's go kick it, man, what's up?" You know, and people were like, when I would tell them no, they're like, "Man, what's up with you?" And some of them would hate, you know, "Man, Big Dan, man, he's selling out, man, what is he doing? He ain't kicking it no more." But really, they wanted to change too. They wanted to change, they just didn't know how. So when I started to change, the peers around me started to change, and they wanted a job too. They wanted to stop getting harassed by police. They wanted to raise their kids right. And so I began to do that. And I've dedicated my life to working specifically with young men who are in numerous ways at risk of the different peer pressures involved in the community. So that's my story, and I'm honored to be here and to host this panel with these young men. As we, thank you. Before we start, I would like to ask the young people, the young men, if you can please take a stand. Absolutely. Young people, young men, repeat after me. I am deserving of a decent education. I understand that bettering myself isn't all about me. I understand that bettering myself will also impact my family and my community. People before me fought hard so that I can benefit the opportunity of life's gifts, such as education, be my own identity, to speak up if treated unfair, and pursue any career I choose. I have the power to improve my schools. We have power of unity. What I do now as a student are skills to prepare me for a job and career. Please take a seat, young men. It is your job as an audience to actively listen. There will be a short opportunity at the end to ask any questions. So I believe there's some cards if you would like to write down any question as we get through the panel. Now for the moment we've all been waiting for. Now I'd like to start at the far end. If you can, I have a question. So I'll read the question, and before you answer the question, tell us again your name, what school, what grade. The first question: share the top 2 things that helped you stay in school, graduating.
Well, first, I want to say my name is Deontay Jackson. I am a junior at Oakland Tech. I feel like the first thing that has helped me stay in school is my family, most of all. They motivated me throughout elementary, middle school, and high school. And it was a great opportunity having a loving family to actually be there and care for me. And be on me when I needed it, especially that belt, though. And then the second thing is my self-motivation. I feel like I shouldn't be another statistic. It should have never been there in the first place. I shouldn't have to go out in the street and be looked upon as, another one of the people that's going to be in jail sooner or later. And that really inspires me to actually better myself and better the people around me.
Thank you. Next up, tell us your name, your age, your score, and again, what are the top 2 things that helped you stay in school? Graduation.
All right, well, first off, my name is Luis Ramirez. I attend Castlemont High School, and I'm currently 16 years old. And the top two things that help me stay in school right now are the love and support from my family, my friends, and mentors and teachers that I'm blessed to have. Because not like most students like support from their own teachers, and knowing at Castlemont I get the support from even my past teachers that I don't see, and the love and support from my parents that keep telling me to graduate high school and at least get a diploma because they didn't get the chance to graduate high school or even make it to middle school. And the other thing that keeps me motivated is knowing that in this country and in this world we need like a decent education. We need at least a diploma to like make a living for ourselves and to get a decent paying job so we can survive on ourselves and know just how the world works in general.
Same thing, brother.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mac McGee, Mac McGee Jr. I'm currently a 12th grader enrolled at Laney College's Gateway to College program. I'm concurrently enrolled. And the top 2 things that would have kept me in school were honestly the people I interacted with on a day-to-day basis. I'm the type of person where like I was always interested in like the way people thought and the way people acted and the mindsets they had and how the places they came from influenced that. So then I was fortunate enough when I attended Oakland Technical High School, I'm a former student there, a lot of the English and history teachers I had, the way they taught their class funneled right into my interests, so that captured me from the start. I just had a problem doing the homework. And so with like my most memorable teacher, it was Mr. Nicholas, my 12th grade English teacher. The way he taught his class, all of the books related to some aspect of like the human condition, whether it was Othello, Gilgamesh, or Siddhartha. And so like that was right up my alley. Then I had my history teachers like Coach O'Keefe, who was the junior varsity football coach, who always like put everything in the context of the way I would have to perceive it as a young man of color. And so that was something that definitely helped. And then the second aspect of that, that people-centric motivation was the way I got to see examples of where stopping at different points in your education can land you. I've gotten to see people who stopped in the 6th grade, people who stopped at high school, people who stopped with some college, people who graduated from undergrad, all the way up to people who got their master's. And so I got to see like the type of future that I could possibly have, and it made me realize that I want to be able to provide the best possible life for the family that I will soon have. So yeah.
There it is. Wow. Thank you.
So my name is Tucson Stone. I am an 11th grader at Midwest High School. And the top 2 things that keep me motivated in going into school is knowing that knowledge is power. Like without knowledge, you're just gonna be dumb-minded. And the last thing I wanna do is be unsuccessful. And I wanna be able to make money and be able to take care of the people that are in my life. And to have this opportunity going to Midwest High School, every Tuesday and Thursday, I have an internship, which is basically having a job in high school without getting paid, but you still get the knowledge from it and the wisdom being with the people that I'm with, like Brother Chris. And the second part, what keeps me motivated to go to school, it's just opportunities, 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 and opportunities always around. So those are the top 2 things for me.
Good job.
Greetings. My name is Deshar Young. I graduated Oakland Tech in 2009 and a recent graduate of UC Berkeley 2013. I'm a college advisor through GradNation College, who also works with East Bay College Fund and also the African American Achievement, and also teach a class with the Men Development. And for me, starting in high school, it was practically what I'm doing now as a college advisor. Just when I was in high school, seeing advisors that were my age, my color, and having to knowing that can be me. That can be me helping another brother. Giving back. Basically, that can be me giving back to my community, having people that I feel, comfortable with being around. Secondly, was family, having a great family support, and just knowing, being the eldest of 7 children, knowing that I have to set an example for them, and not only my family, but also brothers in my communities. I actually remember in middle school, we had this thing where they tell you to look to your left, look to your right, and you look at all your friends, and the hope is you'll see everybody in the same place when you get to high school or college. But reality is, friends and family are dropping off, and you don't see those brothers. So for me, my motivation was to be that person to go back into my community and do what I'm doing now, to help out and to be a familiar face. And that's what's, I think, most important. Even at the college level, you have programs like the African American Achievement Program, where you're in a space where you see brothers of color from different places, not just Oakland. People who have the same passion, have the same goals, and also have programs like the EOP, Equal Education Opportunity Program, where they're also familiar faces, where they're helping you gain that knowledge and experience to give back to your community. So I would say family and access programs.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Gabriel Lopez. I go to Dewey Academy. I'm 17 years old, and I'm working with the Courage organization. For me, I would say that 2 things that keep me motivated to go to school or to graduate is my family, first of all, because my parents didn't have that education level that we're receiving right now here in the United States. My father dropped out of school when he was about 12, 13 in Mexico. He had to work. My mother didn't have the the resources to get to school. So that's one, my family, and second, to help out my community. I want to work with youth. You know, I want to start working with them since they're little. I'll start working right now with my little brother. You know, I'm trying to show him, you know, how to better himself. And by that, I want to better myself first by graduating and by obtaining a college degree. Yeah.
There it is, brother. Well said. Si se puede.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Benjamin. I'm a high schooler at Oakland High, and I'm in junior. And two things that motivate me to keep going into to go to college is my family and also these organizations that I've joined. I say my family because, like, to be honest, before junior grade, I actually wanted to drop out freshman and sophomore year because I didn't find the need for school anymore. Like, it was kind of a waste of time for myself, I believe. But my family never gave up on me. They always, although my parents, like my brothers here, they said they didn't have the education, they didn't have the sources either, but they always supported me. They always wanted to help me get to the graduate level and keep going, moving forward. And so I took their support, and I'm still going right now, and I've just been doing better. And also organizations is because they also helped me out from not dropping out, because I joined this organization called Build On. I don't know if many people know, it's new so far. And what this organization does is a free community service organization. We go out and we help people, like we do food banking, feed the hungry. We go tutor kids at other schools, and then we also do many events for holidays and stuff like that. And what that helped me experience is that I get to connect with people I really don't know about, and I see like their lifestyle and also like how that just puts like a smile on their faces. It's like a good feeling, and that kept me motivated to wanting to help out this organization. And now I'm actually an officer of this organization. I'm hoping to be a president of it, and then just keep moving with the organization, because it's a big movement in my life.
Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. The beautiful thing about this is that you all individually have your own recipe. It's what works for you individually, and that's what I keep hearing. There was a question from the audience that said, what do you believe is the greatest challenge for young people to want and strive for higher education? So I encourage whoever wrote this and for all of the audience members to come up to these young people afterwards and talk more about that. I want to continue to focus on what is working. So in essence, it is answering that. The next question, gentlemen, we'll start again from the far end. Share what has worked best at your school in helping you feel prepared for life after graduation, such as getting a career, college, being in the community. So again, what has worked best at your school in helping you feel prepared for life after graduation?
I would have to say the numerous programs that my school offers and the after-school programs that I'm a part of. My school offers a manhood development program, basically, with Mr. Lamar Hancock. Basically, he's bettering brothers of African-American descent, or just basically people of color, into like bettering their education, bettering themselves, and trying to get them to see that they can make a difference in the world. And then on top of that, I'm a part of Summer Search, the San Francisco office. What they do is they're hooking me up with a lot of opportunities. Like just last summer, I went on a Colorado Outward Bound trip, mountaineering and rock climbing for 3 weeks, wow, which is one of their most rigorous courses in the whole program. And that was just a basic team building opportunity. Absolutely. So that they're showing me as I progress through the program that you're gonna have to work with a lot of people you're not particularly around, for instance. And my mentor Alyssa, she shows me that, for instance, deadlines. She shows me that they're real. Like, you have to have these things in by a certain date. And so the way she's teaching me and the way she's actually being real with me and not trying to sugarcoat it is actually helping me better myself for life after high school.
Well said, brother.
Well, once again, my name is Luis Ramirez, and the thing that's helping me in school lately is just like DJ said, is all the organizations that come to our schools, that our schools bring in. And I'm lucky. I was lucky enough to be part of, when I was a freshman, like 2 years ago. My school brought in an organization, the Unity Council's Latino Men and Boys program, and it's similar. It's just a Latino mentor, like just giving us like manhood skills and all this stuff. And I was a part to be there since it's been at Castlemont, and ever since then, like they helped me gain from a 2.0 to a 4.0, and so. And well, they helped me with my grades a lot, and they also helped me build connections with my teachers. So now, like whenever I need help, I know how to stay after school with a teacher and get advice and get help. And they also give me job opportunities. Through them, I was able to work with Youth Together, another organization, and with East Oakland Building Healthy Communities, and they helped me go across the state, and I meet new people, and so it gives me the motivation to stay in school so I can like grow up and help this for other people of my color and in my community. So, yeah.
All right.
What I would have to say had worked best at my school, I'm primarily going to be talking about my experiences at Oakland Tech because that's where I spent like my initial 4 years of high school. Would have definitely been like DJ and Luis has said, the programs that were offered there because they helped shape my paradigm. And the organization specifically I'm going to be talking about is named Real Hard, but it's an acronym. It stands for Representing Educated Active Leaders Having a Righteous Dream. And so what this program focuses on is improving like the school community and the school culture. It promotes healthy relationship between students and teachers to provide a cohesive environment for everybody to come and get an education. And this program definitely opened my eyes to actually how much I actually did care about school. While I may have been like slightly opposed to like the whole homework idea, like doing homework every day, I really did care about the way that my teachers were teaching the students, the way my fellow classmates were receiving the information, how much the principal was involved, how many people actually knew that we had things like the school site council, how many people knew with different ways to get involved, like the school robotics club and stuff like that. And it made me want to be like more of an activist in my community. And the second thing was having a mentor. I didn't necessarily get my mentor through Oakland Tech, but through some of the relationships I was able to form while going to Tech, I had gotten into contact with my mentor. His name is Moses Harris. He's currently a banker at Wells Fargo. Moses honestly has been like a saving grace for my education because I was at a point where I felt like I couldn't like get anything from the high school that I was attending currently at the time because I was one of those kids who would always try to make the teacher look like they didn't know what they were doing. I would be that kid that like I never did my homework, but I would always get A's on tests. So I was like an enigma in the classroom. They were like, why is this student like so unwilling but has all this potential? And I didn't realize, and it was because that I never actually got the chance to realize how important and how like central in education is to like having a remotely decent life. And Moses showed me this. He showed me manhood principles. He showed me how to be an honorable man of God. He showed me, he laid the college game out flat for me so I know exactly what I needed to do to get a 4.0 in college and to go on to graduate school and hopefully get a PhD at some point. And this is something that I really hope, that I hope everybody realizes is that having a mentor can shift the way you look at school so much. And having some, especially when it's a mentor that reflects the community you came from or went through the similar struggles.
Well said.
Okay, so I'm going to start off with saying that my school, Midwest, gives me the opportunity to have a mentor and an internship. So I chose my internship to be the intern of the executive director of African American Male Achievement. And actually, I was one of the people that set up GradNation. And it's a very good experience. Like every day you learn something new there. And also my school has things like man development program and black and brown community building and things of that such. Also, I could say that through my internship, that I learned things like leadership and gaining more wisdom and knowledge and power about who I am as a black male in Oakland, and why I shouldn't bring myself down and see myself as a statistic. And it's a big difference from going to tech. It's a smaller community, and you're pinpointing, like they want you to succeed so bad. And since the first day that I walked into that school, they knew who I was, and they seen the potential in me, and it made me blossom as a person, and showed what I am capable of doing, and the opportunities that I have, pretty much.
All right.
For me, I'll say starting in high school again, it was college readiness access programs. I remember I was part of a program called Educational Guidance Center, now known as Talent Search. I remember hanging out with my mentors and actually going to UC Berkeley's campus and going to their programs, especially my senior year. And then when I actually started freshman year, a lot of the students thought I was a sophomore in college. And for college, there was an organization that I was actually a part of. We were called the Collegiate 100. We're part of the 100 Black Men of the Bay Area. And what was great for me for this program on a school, a college level, it was one program that all the black males can come together, no matter what program that they were in, no matter what they were dealing with. It was a program for black males to come together and fellowship, and also a lot of times on college campuses there's a gap between black athletes, black student athletes and students because their busy schedules. And that program for me was a chance to close that gap and actually fellowship with my black brothers. And then on the more of a professional level, I got to hang out with some brothers from the 100 Black Men of the Bay Area, such as Brother Chris. I look up to this man a lot. He doesn't know it, but I watch him from behind the scenes. And that program gave me the opportunity to see more black professionals, learn about their businesses. I got a chance to visit a few national conferences. I actually remember, it goes so deep, I remember I went to the UK to visit some family there, and I actually had a conversation with the brother who had a chapter in London. And it was crazy because we may think that the problems over there, we don't deal with the same situations, but over there, the brother's a black gentleman. We were talking, and a lot of the situations that we're dealing with in Oakland with education, they're dealing with the same thing in London. So that was just a great experience for me to, on a professional level, again. So if you, when you do go to college, please look out for the Collegiate 100, and also look out for the 100 Black Men in the Bay Area. So.
Well said. And let me just repeat the question, just in case some people are just now walking in. The question that these young men are answering is, share what has worked best at your school in helping you feel prepared for life after graduation.
For me, there has been two organizations, one Latino Men and Boys with the Unity Council, such as Luis too. There was a mentor right there called Vidal Gonzalez. He was one of the ones that took me along from since I was a sophomore. And well, yeah, he has prepared me a lot. He helped me a lot with my grades, with my GPAs, and well, I really thank him. And my other organization I'm working with right now is Courage. I'm working with them to better myself, and to learn more about my culture. I thank OG Robert right here for helping me a lot too. And yeah, Courage and Latino Men and Boys have helped me a lot.
Right.
Hello. Can you actually repeat the question, please?
Yeah. So what has worked best at your school in helping you feel prepared for graduation?
What's helped best in my school is, in my opinion, is the organization, as I said, because in organization and clubs at schools, not only do you do extracurricular activities in them, but also you as a student are leading, and also you're like more of the leader and more of taking care of everyone else, because the teachers aren't there. There's a coordinator and all those other people, but they're basically helping you out to like teach the other students that are there. And what that has helped me with is, like, as I said, build on, one thing that I didn't mention earlier is that we go out to a foreign country on summer or spring, and what they do in a foreign country is they build a school for foreigners that cannot travel all the way miles away from their house to another school. And while we're there, we have families there, like where we live with, and we experience how they live, because that will not only like benefit ourselves, it will benefit them. And then we experience like their lives, the struggles they're going through, and like we give and then we take back by like being more resourceful with what we use and how we use it. Because like we have it a little easier here, but when you experience something that like where people are struggling with, the small little things here is actually like great to them, and that makes you feel like, you know, you want to be a better person. You know, we want to be like more caring of many things. And this organization actually helped me very much, because like before I was gonna drop out, I was a 1.0 student, but they helped me get to at least a 3.8. I almost hit the 4.0, but unfortunately, I did not, but I'm still glad I did get at least a 3.8, which made my family happy, because I was like the first biggest grade I've ever got, and it made me happy. And like, it's just a great feeling when you do something really big.
Last question to the young people before we get into questions from the audience. If I can just get 2 responses from the young people. So two young people, if you guys can answer this last question. What is one suggestion that you have to improve the education system for students of color? So one suggestion that you have to improve the education system for students of color.
For me, it's changing the way educators teach curriculum, because I feel the best way is for students to teach themselves, instead of having a teacher write on the board and then say, here's homework, here's a test next week. More of, you know, having ways students teach themselves and relating it to what's going on in the world. Say, for example, if you're teaching a history course and you know there's some sort of protest going on, let's relate that to the civil rights movement. So students, you know, are becoming more involved in understanding what did the people during the civil rights movement, what did they actually have to go to? How is it similar? How is it different? And have students, you know, not break off into groups and, you know, educate themselves, so then when they do go off into the world, they understand how to bring their knowledge and resources to other places, and also learn from other people, because Oakland, it's not just black, it's not just Hispanic, it's a place of all different cultures, all different backgrounds, and all different ethnicities. So, and having students teach themselves, you know, we learn how to network, we learn how to talk to each other, we learn how to gain information, gain knowledge, we learn how to give back, we learn how to share our knowledge. And it starts in the classroom, and that's what we don't understand. A lot of times people talk about students aren't going to class, but for me, if a student at least comes to school, they want something. They want to learn something. And students are always saying classes are boring. So maybe what are you doing as an educator to make the class more interesting, making it more relatable, so the students will want to learn. You learn more, and you gain more knowledge by wanting to learn and wanting to you know share back your knowledge with others. So again, for me, is again, I get to the point, is to change the curriculum where we students can teach ourselves, so we can go out in the world and teach others, and then learn from them and bring it back to our community. Because Oakland is not just a place of violence and murder. It's a very resourceful place. We have a lot of programs. It's just that students do not know how to go out and gain those resources, and with teaching themselves, students will have the opportunity to gain those resources.
All right, well said.
if I had to make like some suggestions, one, it would definitely be to relay students to mentors in a way that their guidance all like comes full circle back to self-efficiency, like Deshar said. Like something that I had noticed as I was going through high school was a commonality of if students didn't necessarily understand what was going on, even if they were willing to ask questions, if they still couldn't understand at the end of the day, they would relegate it down to, oh, my teacher doesn't know how to teach. He doesn't know how to teach this class. And as I've had to grow as a person, I realized that it's not necessarily their complete job to try to make sure you understand how every word fits into it, but more so to lay the foundation to get you to want to know more about it, to like get you to research into it more. And that's something that they're going to have to experience when they go to college. The teachers aren't going to sit there and say, oh yeah, so X goes into it this way because this and this. They're gonna go over the problem, give you the basic groundwork, and they're gonna expect you, if you really want to know it, to study it and to practice it on your own. And I feel like a lot of people are looking for guidance subconsciously looking for guidance in areas that the teachers aren't necessarily like meant to provide. And that's why I believe that having those mentors there to teach them those life lessons will teach them the skills they need to be self-efficient in the classroom and be able to, even if they don't understand, they'll go and find the resources they need on their own. They won't have to have it presented to them. They'll be like, okay, me being in this seat, I'm paying your salary, I'm not understanding this, I might need to come to you after school to figure this out. You're going to help me figure this out some way, shape, or form, for them to take some initiative. And that's what my mentor showed me. And another suggestion would possibly be like restorative justice protocols, because like we have like this tendency to like when somebody does something that we deem like socially unacceptable, we try to separate them from the community so they can have time to reflect on their actions. But what that also does is it criminalizes them on all different levels. We do it with timeout with little kids, suspension with students, and like the school to prison pipeline with troubled students. And I feel like if we work to address the problem or the source of the anger that's coming from these young men of color, what we can do is we can work to provide like a cohesive environment for them to come back in and be productive once again, instead of having that label on them.
Wow. If I can get 2 more new responders to this next question from the audience. What 1 or 2 things do you want adults in the room to hear that made the biggest difference in allowing you to be here today? So we all know you're here right now, but what is 1 or 2 things that you want to share with the adults that allowed for you and making the difference for you to just be here? Now, I think some of you already covered it. Yeah. What 1 or 2 things do you want the adults in the room to hear that made the biggest difference in allowing you to be here today? So what took place to encourage you to say, you know what, my voice matters. Yeah, I'm going to be there Saturday morning in front of all these adults, and I'm going to share my experience. What was that difference? What happened in your mind?
I feel like it was the adults that inspired me, like Mr. Chapman, my grandmother, my parents. All these people have inspired me to actually make a difference in my life instead of being another person out in the streets. And so as I look out into the world, I'm realizing that not enough African-American males are actually having a word in society. Our voice is always downplayed. And so once you see that, it makes you feel a certain way about society, but makes you want to make a difference. And that's how I feel right now. That's why I had to come here. I needed to make sure that my voice was heard. I needed to make sure that people knew that we need more educational programs after school or during school, or more mentorships after school that these young kids need. And not enough, and I already know there's not enough adults in young African-American males' lives. Like most of the time, it's usually the 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds on the streets actually taking care of the little kids, actually trying to tell them that you shouldn't be out here. But it really should be on the parents and stuff. That's what that's honestly what I feel.
All right, thank you. 1 other responder.
All right, what made me want to come here today is the knowledge of knowing that I am the future. I'm self-conscious that I can make a difference in everything that happens around me, that I could be the center of attention if I wanted to. All these brothers up here have so much power, it don't make no sense. It's just like if we could get it to where everybody could understand that we are all gods and kings and queens, and we are here for a reason, and we are all blessed, we would have no problem. It's just so much negativity set around the hood or the ghetto. I've lived in Oakland 16 years of my life. I went to 5 different Oakland Unified schools, and all of them do the same thing. They try to bring us down. At least one or two, everybody can relate. At least one or two of our friends have either dropped out or are doing the wrong thing. Everybody is not bad at all times. Everybody has a good part about them. And I know what my good part is. I'm supposed to be heard, and I have a lot of knowledge and wisdom to be my age. So I feel like I'm here to let that be known.
Wow. I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will always remember how you made them feel. Maya Angelou. I hope this panel fed your mind, your body, your soul, and spirit. And on behalf of Homeboy Goes to Harvard, on my behalf, thank you so much for listening, ladies and gentlemen, and that you continue to have a fulfillful and blessed day. Again, thank you, young men. Pa adelante. Yes, you can. Si se puede. The change starts with you. Stand on your feet, please, young men. And standing in front of you are adults that care and adults that support you.
Go ahead, brother. Yeah, come on up here real quick. Hey, y'all, this right here is the counter narrative. If you have a phone in your hand or camp something, Danny, let's join the brothers right here, right here. This is the story we need to cultivate, perpetuate, and put forward. Again, hashtags, put it on your Instagram, put it on your Facebook, carry this forward. Please, let's give it one more round of applause for Brother Daniel and all the young brothers here. We appreciate you, we love you, and thank you. So I know at this point the program calls for a break, but we're going to keep it moving. In the spirit of just kind of where you're at, if you need to just stay, if you need to stand up for a moment, just you stand up for a moment. If you need to stretch out for a moment, I'm going to give us about 30 seconds just to kind of shake it off, get it right, because the next person I'd like to call up to the stage is the corporate sponsor for Graduation Nation community summits across the nation, and that's AT&T. So, and he's going to introduce an extraordinary sister, leader in our community for decades. And at this point, as folks get centered and bring it back, can you put your hands together for Mr. Ken McNeely, please? Put your hands together for Ken McNeely.
Well, good morning. It's really hard to follow that impressive panel of young men. They certainly reminded me of myself many years ago. Very, very impressive. But let me start by saying one of my favorite quotes. The quote is, "Sail on the sea of ambition and land on the shores of success." That quote was said by a young teenage mother of 4, working hard to put her 4 kids in school, trying to keep them in school, ultimately sending all 4 of them to college. That was said many years ago by my mother. My mother, who sent 4 of us to college as a single mom, 4 kids by the age of 23. And now one of her kids stands before you today, president of AT&T California, managing 36,000 employees. So I know what happens when chance is given a chance. And that's why AT&T recognizes its obligation to partner with the public. We understand that public schools can't do it all along. We have to make a difference. We have to do something to stem the graduation dropout rate, which is why AT&T created our Aspire program. But we have contributed and agreed to contribute $350 million nationally. Yes. To work primarily in communities of color across this nation to ensure that our children are able to graduate, that chance is given a chance. I'm so delighted to be part of GradNation and to be here representing AT&T today. But I'm even more excited about introducing our next speaker, because it really does take a village. And it takes a village not only in Oakland, not only in the Bay Area, not only in California, but our great nation. And knowing that we have great champions in Washington, D.C. certainly makes a big difference. Absolutely. And one such partner, one such champion, and one great cheerleader for us in the Bay Area is our Congresswoman, Barbara Lee. Give her a hand.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Ken, thank you for those very gracious words, but also thank you for your tremendous leadership. And I think, Ken, you're a clear example of, first of all, why it's important to have African American men of color in corporate leadership positions, because not only are you committed to your company's mission and goals, you're committed to who you are and where you came from in your community. So thank you so much, Ken, for that. Thank you. And to Superintendent Wilson, to Chris, first, thank you for inviting me to be here today, but also for your tremendous leadership. And I just have to say, I wish that the African American Male Achievement Initiative had been around when I was raising my two sons as a single mother on public assistance, trying to get through college on food stamps. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I tell you, if only I had had the support and the foundation and the initiatives that the African American Male Achievement Program of the Oakland Unified School District has put together and promoted. And so I just have to say, as a parent and as a mother of two great, phenomenal sons now, as a grandmother of 5, I know how important this is. And I know how important it is to see all of you, for all of you to come out today, to be here with young people, all of the young people, all of the parents, friends, family. It does take a community and a village to raise a child. The panel here really was so inspirational. I mean, they told us what we need to do. I mean, it was so clear. And they are amazing. But you know what? They exemplify the majority of our young black and brown students here in the Bay Area. If only the system, if only we could give them those opportunities that they so deserve. And that's what it's all about. I'm sure you know, and I have to always quote this recent UCLA report that showed this: California is among the top 3 worst states, mind you, for isolating black students, while Latino students are the most segregated in California. A shame and disgrace. Let's not fool ourselves, though. Historic biases and institutional racism and discrimination are still really at the heart of some of these policies. The Congressional Black Caucus, which I chaired several years ago, we supported the Civil Rights Data Collection survey. And let me tell you, I don't know if you've talked about this, but this survey showed that black students represent 42% of preschool students, mind you. These are kids under 6, under 5 years of age, suspended more than once. Children under 5. I mean, can you imagine? That's a shame and disgrace. It's these systems and these policies that are keeping our young African American and Latino boys from rising above their circumstances and realizing their potential. And we're going to turn that around in this community. And I know that. I know that. I know that. These disparities, they seep then into the classroom, and it's a tragedy. Unfortunately, it's not surprising that in most of the national standardized tests, white students outperform their Black and Latino peers by as much as 26 points in some grade levels. And here in Oakland, barely, I think it's 50%, but again, we're turning this around. African American young men make it to their high school graduation. That's unacceptable. Failure to achieve and close the achievement gap, you know, that spells, first of all, disaster for our young Black and brown boys, but it spells disaster for our communities. It spells disaster for us as citizens and for our nation. That means we are a nation. This means we are truly divided if we're going to let this continue. And that is no way, that's not the American way. Actually, this is un-American, if you ask me. So we have to have a nation that recognizes the brilliance of our young people, which leads to an economy of innovators. And it starts with quality preschool education, K through 12, and access to higher ed. These conversations, though, have been happening for a long time. Mind you, when I was in the California legislature in the early 90s, I went to then Speaker Willie Brown. I said, look, we have got to do something about what is taking place with our young African American and Latino boys and men. So I introduced legislation to establish the California Commission on the Status of African American Males, and that commission conducted hearings throughout the state for 5 years. 21 people, I chaired it. We found then that there were more than 5 times as many young African American men under the control of the criminal justice system than there were African American males enrolled in a 4-year college degree. Now that was back then. These statistics still astound me today, and it still drives all of us to fight on these issues. First of all, myself in Congress and here with you in our community. But we're making some progress, but a heck of a lot more work needs to be done. And so I'm very pleased that President Obama has announced, and we here are working on My Brother's Keeper initiative. And we worked on this and got this going during the first 2 years. We suggested it during the first 2 years of his term. We've been talking with the president with regard to the specific needs of the African American and Latino community, specifically as it relates to education and closing the achievement gap. But this also means we have to reduce poverty. We have to enact criminal justice system reform. We have to create jobs and after-school programs. And of course, a quality public education for our young African American and Latino boys. So it's a big comprehensive approach that we must do, and we've got to work, again, like you're doing each and every day with our students, mentoring them and helping them reach their full potential by making sure that we say no, no, no to this so-called school-to-prison pipeline. We've got to say no to that, and that's what closing the achievement gap does. It says no to this. We're going to crack it. It's over in our community. It's over. It's over. We've got to invest in education for our students of color so we can empower our children to reach their full potential. And I think today we are really witnessing and getting a glimpse of what that means. So finally, let me just say, I am so happy to be home. Thank you for your support. It's been a rough 2 years, and it's going to be even a rougher next 2 years. But we got to keep fighting the good fight. And I'm a member of the Appropriations Committee, and just know, even with the folks that are in power, I'm going to find each and every dime I can find to bring back to my community as an appropriator to really help our young Black and brown boys move forward in their lives. And we're going to do that. Not only is that my job, but that's my mission. That's what I've got to do as your representative, because we see the future, and we know that future must include our young people here in Oakland and our young Black and brown boys. Silicon Valley, you see what the numbers show? I'm working with Jesse Jackson on the fact that there are very few African American and Latino employees in those tech companies. You know, But we're going to break that open too, because many of those jobs don't require an advanced degree. You know, many of them are non-tech jobs. So we've got to make sure that our kids coming out of high school are prepared to either go to college, on-the-job training, or move forward in whatever path they choose to move forward in. But that means also that we've got to prepare them for the jobs that exist right here in the Bay Area, and that's in Silicon Valley. So let me thank you again for inviting me to be with you, but also let me just thank you again for what you're doing to make this community the best community, as I always say, the most enlightened, most progressive, most diverse community in the country. Thank you again, and God bless you.
So context before we move into the next session, which is listening to different adults within our community that are all supporting graduation rates for boys of color. So y'all, the morning really is information sharing, right? This is one day in the spectrum of every day we should be doing something actively to support our students who are all here to serve. So today, though, is really lifting up voices and experiences of our students, which our sons, our kings did so well. Now, the next three panels, we're going to have three different groups of folk represent different domains in our community, from the media community, from the public education, from the philanthropic, from the corporate community, from the faith-based community. We're going to hear from different kind of spokes of the wheel, so to speak, but are all committed to moving us in the right direction of increasing graduation rates for boys of color, which is ultimately one of the reasons why we partnered up with GradNation. Was their commitment was a 90% graduation rate across the nation. And in Oakland right now, our graduation rates are still too low. But we're sharing today as a part of focusing on the problem, we're focusing on the solution. So this next set of extraordinary people who are taking up their Saturday to be in community, again, please, you have notebooks in your white bags to take notes. You have your phone to tweet, to text information. But I'd like to introduce the next group of extraordinary people that are going to share some nuggets of brilliance that are going to help move us forward. So the first is another extraordinary system. You can't have African American male achievement without African American female achievement. I am the man I am today because I had a mother and a grandmother who didn't accept failure. And then when I got to manhood, I married a sister that allowed me to be the best man that I can be. And she's an African American woman, of which I've been married to for 18 years. Love, love, love. And this sister I'm about to introduce is an extraordinary sister. An educator ahead of her time, a chairman and a director at UC Berkeley for the African American Studies Department, and has been one of the primary evaluators for African American male achievement since we started in 2010. If you can join me in welcoming and calling to the stage Dr. Naila Nasir, please. We also have another sister who serves, you talk about a servant to the community. She is a public servant. She has met with me on several occasions to ask me specifically what I'm doing, not just for African American male achievement, but what are we doing around Latino and Chicano boys? She is an advocate, a mother, but please join in me, one of our school board members, Sister Rosie Torres, please. And so I'm going to follow my spirit because this next brother who I met actually from a city about an hour inland of Fresno. He's on the school, he's vice president of the school board. I don't know if Eddie Valero made it here today. I know he called me last night and said it probably wouldn't make it. But let me tell you something. This brother invited me to his community in Cutler Orosi. I don't even know where Cutler Orosi is. And he asked me, he said, Brother Chris, I want you to come talk to my community about African American male achievement. And so I get to Cutler Orosi in the foothills of Central California, packed. And there wasn't a single African American male or female in the house. And I was like, well, why did he ask me to talk about African-American male achievement? And everyone that was present were my brown brothers and sisters. And he said, Chris, you need to tell your story because there's things in that story and the work you're doing in Oakland that we can be doing here in Cutler-Orossi for my community. And he said, man, you'll be fine. We got you. So I told him my story. They embraced me. They welcomed me into my Cutler-Orossi community. And from that speech I talked 3 years ago, they have the Young Male Achievement Initiative in that school district for Latino and Chicano and indigenous brothers doing amazing work. So even though Eddie's not here, I want you to give some love for Eddie Valero right now, who's leading the work for our Latino brothers. And I'm looking across my community right now, and I'm just gonna put my sister on, she don't even know it yet. So there's a sister that's in our community. Actually, I see another sister who inspires me and has been leading in this community for years. And from the vantage point of the educator, if she so will support my play, Hattie Tate has been an inspiration for me and many leaders in Oakland Unified School District for years. And Hattie, since Eddie can't be here, if you would be so kind, it ain't nothing you can't handle, because you talk to me about this all the time. But I'm going to ask Hattie, just if you could come down to this spot, please, and just go with your heart to answer the question I tee up for you. So let's give Sister Hattie Tate, a visionary, a leader in Oakland Unified School District, working with our most marginalized brothers and sisters right now as well. Hattie, come on down. And last but not least, this brother, I opened earlier with the quote, "Don't let television tell our vision." Yeah, I know. But this brother, Davey D, man, I mean, an inspiration. This brother is a true friend, and a true friend doesn't tell you what you want to hear. He tells you what you need to hear, and that's what he does for our community. That's what he does across this nation, and that's what he continues to do. So Davey D, can we welcome Davey D to come on down? He's going to be representing the Media Lens. And so we don't have a whole lot of time, but I want to thank, first of all of y'all for taking the time to be here. There should be little mics. Maybe, I don't know. All right, cool. So I have a question. Really, the question is this. From your vantage point, the work that you all do, which we respect and appreciate, what is it that we need to know in 3 minutes or less? What is it that we need to know, the community needs to know? Because after lunch, we're going to be taking this information and creating a little action plan. What do you feel we need to know from the work that you do to improve graduation rates for boys of color? Is the essence of the question. And so we'll start with Sister Naila, and then we'll move down to Brother Davey. And if you have a question, again, fill out your 3x5 card, send it to the outside. We'll pick it up and bring it down. And go ahead.
Okay. Honored to be here this morning. Happy to be sharing with you my 3 minutes of airtime. And I just wanted to start by saying that I'm speaking to you today as a scholar of African American education, but also as a parent of 4 African American children and as a person whose life work is really about education and improving education for students of color. I've been a professor of education for 15 years. I currently teach at UC Berkeley in African American Studies in the Graduate School of Education. And as Chris mentioned, I chair the African American Studies Department at Berkeley. And so the question that I was posed with, is what does the research say about effective teaching for African American kids and African American boys in particular? So as a scholar, I'm going to talk to you both about my own research, what I've seen in my own work in Oakland and in many of the schools in Oakland and with African American male achievement, but also about what the research literature says. There's a pretty robust literature on this stuff, and I think, I won't be saying too much more than what the kids said. I think that there's a lot that we know, and what we haven't done is enact the political will to make it happen. But nonetheless, I also want to say that as we're talking about effective teaching, for me, I'm thinking not just about engagement in school, but about learning. So not just about getting kids to pay attention and do their homework and follow the rules in school, but about what is the quality of the education that we're providing to them that makes them able to be agents of transformation in the world. So not education as sitting back and kind of receiving a body of knowledge, but education that's preparing people to engage in the world in transformative, revolutionary ways. And that's my goal for our system of education. And I think there's already some great work being done in Oakland and a lot of work still to be done in Oakland. So when we talk about learning, we talk about education, a lot of times we're assuming that that's what happens inside of the head, right? That learning is a cognitive process. And I wanted to just begin by saying that for me, and with respect to the scholarship on learning, learning is actually much broader than what happens inside of your head. Like gaining knowledge is not just about putting in more and more facts, that it's actually a social, a cultural, an emotional, and a social political activity, right? The key to thinking about creating effective learning environments is that they're not separate from creating spaces where students feel safe, that attend to their cultural and social realities, that historicizes the experience they're having in the world, and that views them as whole people. And I thought it was noteworthy with the panel of young people a moment ago that when they were asked about what was happening in their schools that was important to them, none of them actually talked about what was happening inside of the classroom. Right? They all talked about programs or community-based programs or programs that were happening inside the school. And I think to some degree that speaks to the way that what's happening inside of the classrooms has not been necessarily our focus for reform and needs to be. Because the kinds of things they were experiencing in those outside of school and those community organizations needs to be what they're experiencing inside the classroom. Not that we're just preparing them to survive what happens in the classroom, but what happens in the classroom is engaging and transformative and interesting and touches them in some deep way. We can't continue to provide schooling that kids feel like they have to just get through, right? So I'm just gonna share with you 3 things that for me encapsulate the research on effective schools for African American students. The first is that it's really critically important to build respectful relationships with students. Right? Too often our kids and our boys in particular experience distrust in schools and are treated all the time as if they are on the verge of doing something wrong. And this comes through in the scholarship. This also comes through when you talk to young people, when you talk to black boys in Oakland about what's happening in their schools and their classrooms. They talk about always being on the verge of being viewed as a criminal. And that is a state of being, it is a state of being in disrespect, right? It's a state of being feared and disrespected over and over and over and over again every day. So I start with that, and I think about this idea of respect. What does it mean to build respectful relationships? That respect has to do with both interpersonal respect, right? Respect between people, honoring students' humanities and their needs, but also cultural respect. Respect for their families, respect for their communities, respect for their culture, their language, their interests. And also political respect, which I view as respect for and understanding the ways that African American boys are positioned in a political system that seeks to maintain privilege for some at the cost of marginalizations to others, and what it means for them to operate within that system. The second thing I'll highlight is just that we have to begin to engage in explicit discussions about race. Schools avoid this like the plague. We tell kids that we're in a post-racial era and that race doesn't matter, but when you talk to kids, it is very much at the forefront of what they're experiencing in schools. And what we're doing with this generation is not giving them the tools to understand it, to name it, to articulate it, to manage it, to push back against it. And we have to give them those tools. We can't pretend the world is more evolved than it is because we leave kids without the skill set to understand what's happening to them. And if you don't understand race and the centrality of race in the society, then you can't understand why you're being treated the way you're being treated, why your community is in the state that it's in. It's critical to talk to kids about race. In the research literature, they call that racial socialization. Right? That also means for me explicit attention to identity, thinking with kids. This is the work that's happening in those out-of-school spaces that kids talked about. Attention to the kinds of healthy academic and racial identities that we want them to build that run counter to the default identity our society provides for them. I can say a lot about that, but I only have another probably 30 seconds, if that. And so finally, I'll end with, our teaching must assume brilliance and intellectual capacity. We cannot approach our kids as if we want to remediate them, as if they are too dumb to understand important, high-level concepts. This means teaching rigorous academic content, having high standards, and providing them with intellectually challenging material and tasks, which comes back to that point about respect, right? When you respect someone's intellect, you push them to learn and to learn important things. And I'll just end by saying that this is work that must happen in schools and also continue to happen in our community and in our homes, and appreciate being part of the conversation.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Rosie Torres, and I sit on the Oakland School Board. I've been on since beginning of 2013. I represent District 5, but I feel responsible for all of Oakland's children throughout the city, not just within District 5. I have a child in a high school here in Oakland, public school throughout, and I also went to public school in Stockton, and I'm really committed to this work. And I appreciate Mr. Chapman for inviting me this morning. It's very encouraging and inspiring to hear the young men that were on the panel before. I have in my hand a copy of My Brother's Keeper Community Challenge. And the reason this is in my hand is because my question that was posed for this morning's panel was, what policies is OUSD implementing or looking to implement to improve the outcomes for boys of color? And so when I look at this challenge that I believe we as a city are committed to, and I'm thrilled that I got to hear Congresswoman Lee say that she's committed to this, which I know she has been throughout her life, but it falls right in line with what I'm looking at and what Oakland is doing. For instance, number one, ensure all children enter kindergarten prepared to succeed. Now, that has become a hot topic because what we know is that children get to kindergarten, not ready to get to the next benchmark, which is third grade reading levels. Now, they get to school and they haven't been taught in the home with the mother, the father, the brothers and sisters, something along the line of 30 million words. There are studies that show there's a 30 million word gap in certain lower income communities. And that doesn't have to do with race, but lower income communities. So that is something that OUSD has in mind as we've started to do transitional kindergarten. For the younger children to hit the ground running in kindergarten. We don't want them to get there and we find out they're behind, and then we find out in third grade they're behind and they're not on reading level, and they only teach reading from first to third grade. So after third grade, if they can't read, they're not gonna be able to do algebra. And guess what that's an indicator for? The building of new prisons. They are looking for reading scores at third grade to decide where to put prisons. So we can't let them take our young men of color and put them there. We want them in a college. We want them in a career, and we want them in a school just like the one we're sitting in. Laney College is a great place to start to then transition to a four-year college or go straight to a four-year college. That's what we dream for our young people. So the fact of the matter is that Oakland has committed, and we just had a board meeting, and we have committed to hiring someone who will be a deputy chief of early learning, 0 to 8. So I'm really excited. We passed that policy. We're hiring someone who will focus on that, and we'll close that 30 million word gap. We can do it. And so another issue is that third grade reading level I was just speaking of. So there was a study commissioned over 10 years, 1979 to 1989, of just about 4,000 students that showed that the fact was if you add poverty and lack of reading skill at third grade, there was a 4 times less likely chance of that student graduating high school on time. Now, the fact of the matter, though, was when students of color and poverty were reading on target in third grade, 90% graduated from high school on time. So we've got to really focus on hitting the ground running in kindergarten. So I'm really excited to be part of OUSD at this time. Another issue is attendance. We are changing the way Oakland Unified School District collects data, robust data, deep-rooted data on what's happening with our students in the school from the time they arrive at the very beginning of their education. We know, again, from data and research that when kids don't come to school in kindergarten, first grade, parents may say, well, it's just kindergarten, and so they can miss a day here or they can be an hour late. That begins the trend to not graduating. So we are committed to studying and to helping schools track and talk to parents, engage them in the importance that, yes, every single day counts and every single minute counts, because just like a push-out or suspension of boys of color, when they're not in the classroom, what do you think's happening? They're not learning. They're getting further behind. So we have to make sure our community is engaged, that every day counts, and being on time sends a message to a little one that throughout the 13 years that they're in formal education, 14 with TK, every day counts. Don't cut class. Don't go hang out with your friends a little bit extra for lunch and miss the afternoon periods. Every minute counts to graduation and your future success. The next thing that I'm really excited about, because OUSD is very pleased with the voters of Oakland. On Tuesday, we want to thank you for passing Measure N with 76% of the vote. Thank yourselves. And why that's so important is that Measure N will raise millions of dollars, probably over $2 million, for our high schools alone. So our high schools, obviously at that point, we have to really be paying attention to our graduation rates, how, units, someone's behind in the units, they need to take summer school, they need to make extra work. That extra money will allow us to do what's called link learning. Who's heard of link learning? Raise your hand. So link learning is another way of saying personalized learning, because we heard from the young man about all of these other than classroom experiences. Link learning will allow us to have students make a connection between something they're doing in science class to being out at Highland or Children's Hospital looking over the shoulder of a doctor, a surgeon, a nurse, some career path that they're interested in. And we have a school right down the street called Met West. Very small school made up of students from all around the city, all zip codes, all income levels, mostly low-income students. They have a graduation rate that's been as high as 98%. Why? 100% of those students do internships for all 4 years, 9th through 12th grade. So if we can get to 98%, and these are kids that probably live across the street from a child who has dropped out. So it's not as if income level is something that will divide. That's not true. Met West students are kicking it out of the park. So we have to implement link learning, and I know we're going to do it because we now have the voters' approval. And I'm really excited that all of the high schools and all of the students will be able to do it 100% in the coming 2 to 3 years. Lastly, with regard to policies that are on the horizon that as a school board member I feel dearly about, and mind you, I think that when we talk about jobs of the future and we talk about Silicon Valley not being able to hire people of color other than going to India or China or Afghanistan and having to get visas for employees to come here, that's their diversity plan. We have to make sure our students are working right over the bridge and across the bay. We need to pursue curriculum that is computer science based, and we are definitely working on exploring how we can do that and as young as possible for our students, because there are jobs that are 6 figures, with a couple years of college, or someone just really shines in their skills. And then lastly, restorative justice practices. I feel that Oakland can be the model school district to implement restorative practices, restorative justice in a more significant way from corner to corner, because right now it's kind of an opt-in. And as a student, when I was in high school, I dropped out. I was living in a single-family home. My mother went into poverty as a result of her divorce. She couldn't monitor me. She had 2 and 3 jobs. She couldn't tell if I was in class, so I dropped out. Now, mind you, I ended up finding a mentor because she forced me to go to our church. We were Buddhist. And in my Buddhist church, I found an African-American woman who became my mentor for the next 10, 20 years, who was a stockbroker, making 6 figures, driving a brand new sports car. And she was the first black woman in her company. She was the first minority in her company as a stockbroker, mind you. And she became my mentor. I got back into school. I got into college. And my next mentor was an attorney in my same church. And I'm an attorney. I run a law firm. I'm a criminal defense attorney. So these restorative practices are very important to me because I want my criminal practice to be closed down and I'll do other things, rather than have a constant recurrence of young Black and Latino men in the criminal system. So that's partly why I'm sitting here, and I ran for school board, because I was sick of what I saw in court day in and day out. And so that's why restorative justice and restorative practices are very important to me, and I'm committed to working with Mr. Chapman here with AAMA. Lastly, I just want to say that our superintendent, who was here earlier, and his team, some of them are in the audience, they're extremely talented, capable, and can do the heavy lifting. So I know that in the next couple of years, you're all going to see massive changes in Oakland Unified School District and the things that I've talked about. So please pay attention and watch what happens.
Thank you. Sister Rosie.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd first like to say thank you to my brother, Chris Chapman, and to my friends, my colleagues, and my neighbors in the city of Oakland. I'd like to start my presentations by saying I am from the town. That means that I attended school right here in Oakland. I'm a graduate of high school at Castlemont, Queen from the Castle Forever.
Hey, hey.
I'm also a property owner, a taxpayer, and I'd like to celebrate with the voters the passage of not just Measure N, that gives our youth an opportunity to link to career in college, but of Measure Z, that helps us stop the violence and deal with the real dysfunction in our city. I have worked in business and finance in the city of Oakland. I'm a graduate of Mills College and currently pursuing graduate study in the very work that we do. I believe within this room and within our hearts, we have the answer to what's happening in our community. Here's why. Everybody in the room understands that in America, there was no plan of success for people of color. As a world history teacher, I was never ashamed to say that to my students, to talk about institutionalized racism, to help them understand that every group, every culture, every color has a stereotypical perception out there, and those are the things that we gotta break down if we're gonna have success. It's not just how you see me, it's also how I see you. So that takes me to this. How many people in the room know of a young person that's done a bad thing? Raise your hand, young people included. Okay, hands down. How many people in the room know of an adult that's done a bad thing? Raise your hand. Here is the crux of our problem in helping African American males of color and Latino males of color. It's our perception. A person that does a bad thing is not a bad thing. There are no bad kids. There are kids that are doing bad things. And they're doing them on our watch. The most difficult problem I had as a classroom teacher, and I did start my work in the classroom, was helping young people understand the difference between their behavior and their performance. Here's a perfect example. I am sitting in the chair. I am not the sitting. Sitting is what I'm doing. Who I am is still present with me, but it's different from my behavior. Until we really do a cultural shift in our thinking, a kid that's doing bad things has probably had 4 generations of dysfunction to learn that as a practice. And with the level of intelligence I see in this room, we're not smart enough to counteract that. I believe we can. I believe together as a community, we can help our kids understand that, yes, respect is rule number 1. In the classroom, on the streets, that's what young people are throwing their lives away for right now. They're throwing their lives away in what they believe is in honor of respect or because of disrespect. So those of us adults that know what respect really looks like and feels like, we got to do a better job of helping them understand that. Respect is nothing about the clothes I have on. It's nothing about the color of my skin. It's more about my self-image and how I carry myself. Getting self-respect in place first in order to give respect. So respect for self and respect for others. I currently work as the coordinator of juvenile justice for the city of Oakland and Oakland Unified School District, and I proudly do that work. Our data says that 70% of the young people I work with have already committed a violent crime. However, Over 85% of them do not commit a second violent crime after we perform wraparound services. That's the work of Measure Z. I do that work in partnership with several county agencies. It is not, there's no time now for us to throw the village away. So the new village is the Alameda County Behavioral Health Department. It is the Alameda County Public Health Department. It is the Alameda County Probation Department. It is, yes, our Oakland Unified School District, the place where every parent and adult in this room expect us to sprinkle the magic dust and make it happen. So, with the City of Oakland's support, I expect us to do this, to make this change so that not just those students that are not in trouble, but students that get in trouble have the same equitable opportunity. When I say I'm from the town, what I mean is I attended school on the west side. The same drugs and challenges and cycles of prostitution and parents who didn't graduate high school, those are the same challenges I had to overcome. Those things that are in the way of our kids' success is nothing for us to help them pass. And the reason we know that is because why? We're sitting in seats where our parents had some of the same challenges and we made it. So I'd like to say to you, welcome to success. That's what this GradNation is about, being successful and welcoming all of us to the work of helping our young people being successful. Thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, I want to thank you all for having me here this afternoon. It was very encouraging and inspiring to see part of the panel that preceded this, to hear the articulation and to see the energy and the vision that the young men that were up on this panel had. It's important that we have this replicated and that we hold this up and we point to it and we talk about it and we celebrate it. Why do I say that? Well, as somebody who's been in media, as a journalist and somebody who's worked for some of the biggest companies around, including Clear Channel at KMEL for a number of years, and then later Time Warner and AOL, programming radio. Very interesting things have taken place behind the scenes that most of us don't know about. It was about 15 years ago, I sat in a meeting with my bosses who told the staff to make the station a bad habit that the listeners and people who don't listen can't shake. Every time you get on the mic, we want you to say a certain phrase. When you close the mic, you say the same phrase. So even if people don't listen to the station, when you say the People Station, which they don't even use as their slogan, you think KMEL. If you say the station for hip hop and R&B, you know it's KMEL. If you even say the DJ's names, even if you don't listen, you know the station. They just didn't make this up. They spent about not a billion, but about a couple of $1 million doing research and figuring out what is it they need to do to really get into the hearts and minds of the people that they're talking to. And it wasn't just young people that was the target. It was a number of people from 18 to 34 and above. It's important to remember this. A few years later, when I started programming radio for AOL Time Warner, we had a nationwide meeting, and I think it was Dick Parsons, who was the president at that time. And it was during a conference call, he told all of us, make sure we reinforce learned behavior. And learned behavior meant that they had did all this research. They spent all this money to figure out what it was going to take to get consumers to buy into their products, to read their magazines, to listen to the online stations, to purchase AOL, all this sort of stuff. And it really harked back to these companies and their millions and all the resources that they had at their disposal had made an investment to make sure that their product and they as institutions were habits that you can't shake. The slogan that we used to have at Clear Channel is, how many ways did we touch you? And my bosses would brag, we're going to touch you on the billboards, we're going to touch you at the bus stop, we're going to touch you on television, we're going to touch you on the airwaves, we're going to touch you at every concert you go to. Wherever you go, we're going to be there till you can't shake us. So how does this tie into graduation? How does this tie into what we're talking about? Well, first, we got to understand that the goal of these institutions was to create an economic and political reality at the expense of the reality that many of us find ourselves challenged with, which would mean that we're behind the 8 ball. We're trying to come up and they're basically pimping us. You all follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because this is the meetings that they're having. And they create the illusions that what they're doing is very organic and very natural and it's not planned out. It's like we're freestyling when we've really been doing a whole lot of writing behind the scenes the night before. So what they figured out and what I just observed is that they came to understand that black and brown death, black and brown incarceration, black and brown dysfunctionality is not only entertaining, but it's big business. There's a whole economy that depends upon those 3 things that I just mentioned. There are police that get paid off it. There are court systems that make a lot of money. There are politicians that have gone from mayor to governor to president, all upon black and brown death, mass incarceration, and dysfunctionality. And media is a tool that is used to enhance that, the dehumanization of our people. Now, I say this because the average person would say, well, I just turn off the TV and the radio. I don't listen to that station, so it doesn't really affect us. But it does affect you because that police officer that profiled you is watching, you know, all the shows that are coming on that have us in these decrepit ways. The employer that you go to see doesn't see a human being. He sees the image that he just saw on TV or the record that they just heard on the radio that had $1 million marketing budget behind. There's a guy that named is Chief Keef out of Chicago. Young kid, about 19. Earlier this year, he said, I'm gonna put out a record that's going to raise the murder rate in Chicago. Now, that's something that we should all be upset about. A lot of us say, well, that's not gonna happen with us, but Jimmy Iovine of Interscope Records that controls 80% of the music, at least hip hop and urban music, gave this man a $6 million deal and didn't hold a press conference to disavow those words. That means that they were going to be touched by him even if you didn't listen. And there's been a number of deaths in his camp since he's made those remarks. Now, this same Jimmy Iovine had a guy on his label named Young Buck about 3 years ago said, you know what, I'm tired of police brutality. I'm tired of being racially profiled. I'm gonna do a song about the police. I'm gonna get all my listeners that's part of the G Unit fan base to understand what we need to deal with the police. Jimmy Iovine stepped in, shut it down, said, I don't want to upset the police. You're not gonna put that out. It's okay to have the murder rate rise up, but it ain't okay to upset the police. This is what's going on in media. So I bring this up today because the question before us is not just to lay out the problem, just to give you all an understanding, but what can we do about it? First thing we need to do is we have to understand the role that media has played since we've been dragged over here in chains, the role that it plays now where we look at our Latino brothers and sisters and we think, are they illegal, quote unquote? They must be doing something wrong. We think that before we see human being and hard worker. That's the result of media. So we got to have media literacy in our schools. That's right. We need to have it the way that when I was coming up, we had to bring in an article, we had to read the New York Times, the Daily News, and we had these discussions. That's not in schools anymore. We got to move from being passive consumers of media to being active. Meaning, what's the power dynamics? Why did they cover the graduation in Walnut Creek, which they did, but they're not here in Oakland to cover the GradNation here where there's a lot more people? We need to ask that question. Who made that decision? Who made that call? What was behind it? What sort of repetition did they want to have in various communities? Because there's going to be repetition on the news tonight about killings. Even if it ain't us, you think, oh, drive-by must be us. You know, somebody gets knocked out in the parking lot, must be one of us. Graduation must be Walnut Creek, must be Tiburon, must be Belvedere, some of those Aptos, some of those places. So we need to understand that we have to have our youth as well as us, understanding what's the power dynamics at play so that they don't get programmed and sucked into it. The second thing that we have to do is that we have to encourage the people that's in our community to be involved as being media makers. What do I mean by that? It's not just enough that they can post up on Facebook, take an Instagram picture, write a blog, but I'm talking about being media makers who aren't even looking for a job. A lot of people say go down to Silicon Valley, and we're forgetting that it was just 20 years ago, there was a bunch of people sitting in chairs saying, maybe I could create my own company, and they did. So what is wrong with us not sitting in these chairs saying we can create our own? We don't need the Facebooks, we'll be the next Facebook. We don't need the Googles, we'll be the next Googles. What is wrong with us not having an entrepreneurial spirit that takes it to the next level? And all of us in this room investing in it, because the apparatus that gets set up is one that will benefit us all. I just sat in a meeting, and I'll close, where they asked, well, what is it that you want to do around this project? I said, I want to create a radio network. And people are like, oh, you know, that's overwhelming. And it's like, why is that? You know, I laid out the 3 steps that you could do that. It's not that hard. But what it said to me there is that even when you had activists, people who were supposed to be organizers, they had been brought in, they brought in to the constant repetition that says you can only do so much before you got to hand it off to somebody else. And I'm here to say that we have to make that investment so that the ceilings are broken, that the barriers are lifted, and that everybody in this room can see themselves going above and beyond the people who are successful around them or in this room. Is this making sense what I'm saying?
Yes.
All of it starts with understanding the role that media plays in terms of imprisoning us, oppressing us, or the role that it can and should play and has played in the past, as Dr. Martin Luther King used to talk about in his speeches, and liberating us. So I'm here to be part of the liberating solution. And I appreciate y'all taking time out. I should just add, I'm somebody who teaches, as well as a journalist. I teach over at SF State, so I see the byproducts of the folks that are coming out of these schools and classrooms at this point. And we got to spend a lot of time doing critical thinking, a lot of media analysis, and a lot of deprogramming that these big corporations with billion-dollar budgets have made to own and operate the minds and spirits of our community. So thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you, Brother Davey D. Real quickly, Hard Knock Radio, if people want to hear more, Brother Davey D, how do they listen to your station, brother?
I'm on every day, 4 o'clock, 94.1, KPFA.
Excellent. One more round of applause. Davey D, Sister Addie Tate, Sister Rosie Torres, Sister Naila Nasir, please, let's give them some love. I'm going to move to the next panel. Put your hands together, y'all, for an extraordinary group of panelists. Thank you. We appreciate you. Again, this is all going to provide information for us to put together our impact statement that we're going to do this afternoon. The next group I'd like for you to welcome down to the stage. Please join me in welcoming Darren Chan, Area Manager for External Affairs, AT&T. Please come on down. Thank you, brother. And love you too. Brian Stanley, Executive Director, Oakland Public Education Fund. Can we give them some love as they come on down? They took up their Saturday, share some information with y'all. Put your hands together, please. Brother Jesus Portillo, Chair Member, Aspire and Achieve, is going to talk about an amazing opportunity, Holy Names College. And then Sister Amy Saxton, Chief Executive Officer for Summer Search. Come on down, please. Give them some love. Thank you. So as they come on down, thank you all for your grace and patience. I hope we are lifting up what's being said and posting it as well. But at this point, each of you received a question prior to. So if you can state, again, just kind of say your name, what your role, and then kind of lift up the question that we posed. And if you didn't get it, I'll just pose the question. But we'll start with you, Brother Brian.
Sure.
Chris, can you repeat the question?
So the question is, from your perspective, brothers, what can the philanthropic community do to support the graduation rates for boys of color? What are things that they can do?
Sure. So good morning. So let's see. So I think there really are two things. One, I think we have to demand more from public systems that are tasked with supporting and educating our children. That I think when we take a look at what the data says about what's happening in Oakland Public Schools, we know that roughly 75% of all Oakland Public School children attend schools that the state of California says are really struggling schools in terms of the overall quality of the education that's happening. Now, we can all have feelings about tests and all that stuff, but the truth is that's absolutely ridiculous. We know that less than half of our children will graduate high school with A through G qualifications. We know that less than half of our children will pass the California high school exit exam, particularly when we talk about African American and Latino boys. And so what is really clear to me is that in 2014, we still have these types of deep systemic issues that result and continue to result in inequitable outcomes. We actually have to demand more from our public systems. In Oakland, if you sort of add up all of the public money that comes into just this community to educate our children, if you add OUSD, if you add all of the sort of attendant agencies around that, you're probably getting pretty close to about $1 billion. So in this community, we get about $1 billion of public and private money, roughly, to support the education of our children. And I don't think anybody here is happy with the results of that. And so I do think that there's a real fundamental obligation that if we want better outcomes from our public systems, then we actually have to do our part, right? Business has a role to play in this. Community advocates have a role to play in this. Parents have a role to play in this. Young people have a role to play in this. So it seems that the first step really is, how do we build better partnerships, demand better outcomes, and support those better outcomes for our public systems? I know Superintendent Wilson pretty well. I know lots of his team. I work with lots of them all the time. They actually want this, right? They actually want to be held accountable for the results of what's happening to our children in our public schools. So we should do that. I think the second piece is I actually think that we need a mind shift. Right? We need a mind shift that really helps us understand that we can actually do this, that we know that there are pockets of excellence, as I sometimes call them, pockets of awesomeness all around this country, and even all around the city. We heard that Met West sometimes gets graduation rates up to 98%. We know there are schools in Oakland that have substantially reduced, and in many cases eliminated, disproportionate suspensions of black boys. So we know that there are pockets of awesomeness, and we know that we can do this, but it's often the case that we tend to forget that because the job seems so hard. So I think the mind shift is, actually, we can do this work. We've done it before. There are places that we can learn from and things that we can build on. I think the last couple of points here. One, we need to always remember that what young people need more than anything else, there really are three things. One, they need caring relationships that are grounded in love, that are grounded in appreciation, that are grounded in affirmation. They also need relationships that are also grounded in high expectations. And it's to say, you can do this, I know you can do this, I know you can get through this, and I'm here to help you do it. And the last piece is, we know that young people need opportunities to participate, to be involved, to have agency, and to really make meaningful contributions to their own community. It is not the natural human condition to be in a community and not make any contributions to that community. That is not normal. People naturally want to do that. So we actually need to give young people opportunities to do that, to bring voice, to bring vision, and to bring value to what's happening around them. And so philanthropy, when they can do projects that enable that, when they can support that type of work, you actually begin to see real powerful transformation across the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Amy, you want to go for it?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Amy Saxton, and I'm the CEO of Summer Search. We're a national youth development nonprofit that supports low-income high schoolers to get through high school, go to and get through college, and to give back as leaders. I recently heard this statistic, which I actually knew, but it still shocked me. 1 in 3 black boys born today will end up incarcerated or involved in the juvenile justice system. I joined Summer Search about 4 years ago, and knowing all of the statistics about how our young men of color are faring or not throughout the education pipeline. And I said, great, this is going to be a priority for this organization to serve our young Black and Latino and Asian American males. And then I heard all the reasons why we couldn't. Well, they've already dropped out of high school, which is when we start working with students. We're just reflecting the fact that there aren't that many males in high school. At the time I joined Summer Search, we were serving 34% males. So we looked at the research, and guess what? There are just as many young men as there are young women in high school. Well, you know, we're not any different from our youth development peers. Our peers look just like we do. This is a systemic problem. We looked at the data. You know, it was true. Multiple peers that do the work like Summer Search does had just the same male to female ratios. But you know what I told my team? Is that we're not satisfied for any of our young people to be average, so why should our organizations that serve our young people be average? So then we looked at our data again, and what we saw was we don't have any bias in our recruiting. We're recruiting the kids who get sent to us from the high schools that we partner with. We partner deeply with schools like Oakland Tech, Oakland High. And that was true. But I said, let's remember the systems that we're working in, who deeply care about our kids, but who also have rates like the highest group of kids who go into special ed are our Black boys. 5 times more likely to be in special ed than any other race-gender pair. The least likely group is Black boys to be in the talented and gifted program. So let's remember that we can't be satisfied with who gets sent to us as a leader to be in our youth development programs. All of our young men can be leaders and all deserve an opportunity. Thank you. So what does all that mean? What do youth development nonprofits need to do this work? They need commitment to not be average and not accept any excuses for serving our young men of color exceptionally well. So we made this a focus for Summer Search, and now 45% of the young men we enroll are young men of color. We've jumped 10 percentage points in the last 3 years. But don't clap about this, because I'm going to tell you that's when it actually got real. And that brings me to my second point, which is hope. We need conviction and we need hope. There's a young man, when I joined Summer Search, one of the first things I did was go to a high school and watch us interview and accept students. A young Black man, I was really smitten with him. Charismatic, courageous, foster care kid. He was beaten so bad by his mom that in 10th grade he collapsed on the basketball court and was taken away and put into foster care. He'd been couch surfing with aunties and uncles when he came to Summer Search. I thought, yes, this is a young man who we need to serve. And we did. And then I could keep track of him. How's he doing? How's he doing? Where's he? How's he doing? And one day my staffer came to me and said, he's not doing so well. And then a couple months later, he dropped out of our program. When we decided to serve our young men of color, we had to realize everything had to be questioned. Everything had to be questioned. How do we serve them well? What do we need to do differently? We formed groups of young Black men so that they could support one another. We brought our alums back in so they could support those youngsters and bring them up behind them. You had to question everything. We started focusing on the diversity and inclusion of our own staff and board members. And it's in those moments where I said, we lost that young man who I thought of as almost my peer. He started when I did. I was looking forward to seeing him through high school and to college. That's when we had to get really real and hold on to hope that we could do better. So I want to close just by saying every single one of our young men of color has the capacity to succeed. I fundamentally believe that. And what we need to do as organizations that wrap around them, as educators, as parents, I'm a parent, is instill in them the commitment to excellence and the hope that they can get there, and then give them the relationships and the opportunities that allow them to succeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Darren?
Hi, I'm Darren Chan from AT&T's External Affairs, and I'm going to expand on what President Ken McNeely talked about with AT&T's Aspire program, the education initiative that's investing $350 million. But before I do that, I really just wanted to say how happy I am to be here today. I'm actually an Oakland native myself. I was born here, raised in the Bay Area, and now I'm back living in Oakland. And my mom was actually on the Oakland Unified School District back in the 90s, so this really touches home for me. Everything that you're putting together today, Brother Chapman, is fantastic, and I really applaud you for the efforts, and I'm just happy to be back here. And I don't have kids today, but when I do, I'm going to be certain they'll be going to Oakland Unified School Districts, because I know that things like today are really going to move us forward and really make it so that our schools, our children are really going to be the future that we want to see. So I just really wanted to touch on a few things that Ken mentioned as it relates to the Aspire program and how we're really helping boys of color at AT&T. One of the things that I heard the young men say earlier in the panel today is about the how mentoring really is a key to them. I mean, as we've heard, the classroom is important, but mentoring is a key. AT&T has a program called the Aspire Mentoring Academy, and through that academy, we do job training and we do job shadowing with students. Students come in, they partner up with our employees, and our employees show them what job skills are necessary and teach them how to be successful in a working environment. And through that program, we've hosted over 100,000 job mentoring programs. We've done 7,800 employees have participated, 66,000 students, and that includes over 800,000 hours of mentoring. So it's a program that we're really invested in, and as Congresswoman Lee mentioned, we're really invested also in the My Brother's Keeper program, something that, again, is something that AT&T is really, really proud to be supportive of. The other thing I really wanted to talk about is a recent partnership that we're doing with Udacity to launch nano degrees, and this is a program that is really focused on providing online certification for software skills that are needed in today's economy. And as we heard earlier today, we're talking about trying to get folks and boys of color and girls of color into jobs in high-tech industry, and that includes in Silicon Valley and an entire Bay Area. And this program is really geared at really training our young people of the future to be able to have those skill sets that will allow them to get into that role. And then finally, what I really wanted to focus on that's really Bay Area specific and local is the organizations that AT&T is partnering with here, and Summer Search is one of them. I was happy to hear one of the young men today talk about their experience with Summer Search, because that's exactly the type of experience AT&T wants to foster and grow with. We're also partnering with folks like Unity Council, which I know one of the other young men talked about, Chris Iglesias, the CEO there, and we're really fortunate and proud to be part of that organization, as well as 100 Black Men, which I believe will be speaking later today. Frank Tucker is an amazing person. We are nothing but happy to support that. So really, AT&T understands that education is at the forefront of how we're going to move forward with building an economy that's vital, and really boys of color and folks from the low economy, such as places like here in Oakland, are really what we're trying to focus on, because we understand that that's really what's going to drive us forward. So again, we really appreciate being here, and we're really hopeful that this is going to be a step forward in the right direction. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Darren. And Brother Jesus.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jesus Portillo. I'm with Aspire and Achieve. It's a community immersion program to help at-risk African-American males at Oakland Tech currently right now. And it all began at Lakeshore Avenue Baptist Church, where our local organizing committee polled our members, and we looked at the problems at Oakland and decided education was key. So we began building relationships with, doing research, building relationships with Oakland Tech, with Holy Names University, African American Male Achievement, and we've started doing research with the supervisors, with our district supervisors, with school board members, and looking for ways where we could help at-risk African American males at Oakland Tech, initially because our members were attended there, and because when I researched, we found that Oakland Tech had at the time the highest achievement gap in the city. So there are a lot of things we want to do, but we couldn't do by ourselves. So we built relationships with Chris Chapman and Lamar Hancock of African American Male Achievement, with Yale Kamara of the Early Admit Program at Holy Names University, and with Oakland Tech, the principals and Holy Names. And through the cooperation and working together and seeing the problem together, we've come up with a plan where we can provide students with tutors, mentors, workshops, and admission to the Early Admit Program of Holy Names University. Holy Names University is offering a plan where if you have 2.7 grade GPA or higher, and you graduate and you pass the college courses, they will admit you into Holy Names with the possibility of a $9,000 scholarship. And we want one of these at-risk students to have that opportunity, to give them so that they could claim their empowerment, that they could believe in themselves and take ownership of their success. And we hoping that this is a model, because I feel that college students are an underutilized resource, that having college students as mentors, as they are so close, they can really relate to the students of the time, and that there is possibility for even more cooperation with colleges. I'm very proud of the work we're doing, but we need to do more. And I quote a rabbi who says, sometimes the answer to prayer from God is, of course I sent help, I sent you, you know? And we're all here. We're all here to help boys of color. We're starting out with African American males. We want to expand into Latinos and to women of color too as well, of course. But I'm so grateful for this symposium, for this opportunity to join with you, to say we are all been sent by God, that we are all here to spend the afternoon working on ways to encourage, engage, and empower. And I want to thank Chris Chapman and African American Achievement for having this. And I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesus. One thing I want to lift up, in particular parents and advocates, that is pretty extraordinary, and that is the commitment that Holy Names College has made to high school graduates here in Oakland. So if they graduate with a 2.7 or higher GPA, they get admittance to Holy Names College with up to a $9,000 scholarship. That's the kind of commitment I'm talking about. Thank you, Brother Brian. Thank you, Sister Amy. Thank you, Brother Darren. Thank you, Brother Jesus. We appreciate you and look forward to working with you in the days and weeks and years to come. Let's give them another round of applause, everybody. And our last but not least panel, y'all have been gracious. You have been extraordinary. I tell you what, for all the little people that are still here holding on, can the big people give little people a round of applause, please? They have been so well behaved. We love you. We're here for you. So great job. So our last panel of extraordinary servants to our community, I'd like to call out Nicole Wiggins, parent advocate extraordinaire. Give Sister Nicole Wiggins, she's a mother of 2 Oakland Unified School District high school students. Another sister who I met recently, who's my sister from another mister, and holding it down at Cal State East Bay. Wonderful family from higher ed, Heather Gardley. Let's give her some love. We talked earlier about how we must cultivate an entrepreneurial spirit in our youth. And we have an extraordinary brother who is a strategist. Brother Kumi Rauf. Brother Kumi, come on down. Let's give Brother Kumi some love. And then one of my brothers in the Bay Area chapter, 100 Black Men. He's the president. He's a businessman. He's an extraordinary father. Let's welcome Brother Frank Tucker on down as well. Please give Brother Frank some love from representing the Bear chapter of 100 Black Men. And I'm going to draw our attention to the front. A little box here we have. If we can keep our comments relatively close to 3 minutes, I greatly appreciate it. And so we're going to hear from our last panel. We're going to give Brother Picasso the opportunity to share his rendering. And then we're going to move over through the quad, stopping at some of the little venues, getting some lunch, and then work this afternoon to make our personal impact statements. Like, what are we going to do come Monday? So at this point, I'm going to give it to Brother Kumi. And Brother Kumi, if you, and I'm sorry, Brother Frank, I thought you had a mic. Did you get the question that we sent? If not, I'm just going, you have about 3 to 4 minutes, brother, just to bless us with your insights, your wisdom. So go for it.
The question, hi, my name is Kumi Raouf. I'm representing the I Love Being Black movement. The question that I got in the email was, how does education influence my entrepreneurship? Is that about correct?
That sounds about right, brother.
Okay. So, this is a tough question to answer in about 3 to 4 minutes, because essentially what I want to do is convey everything that I learned that took me years to learn in about 3 or 4 minutes. But I think I can do it pretty well. So essentially when you're brought up, you're looking at everything A to Z, right? And what I learned through school and through, trying and failing and trying and failing and trying and failing and finally succeeding is that that's the wrong way to do it. You really want to look at things from Z to A. You want to envision yourself at Z, and that's going to control all of the steps that you need to get to Z, right? Instead of saying, oh, well, I want to study this. Figure out what you want to be, and then figure out what you need to study to get that, and then figure out what schools have that as a major, and then figure out what classes you need to take now, or what internships you need to take, or what people you need to speak to, or people you need to network with. This is something I learned very, very late. Very, very late. But it's something that I like to tell everybody, especially the youth, and especially the parents, because I think this is going to influence the rest of your life. For me, the things that were sitting at my Z were, I want to work to uplift black people. That was number 1. I want to control my own time. That was number 2. And I want to travel the world. That was number 3. I've been to Panama. I've been to Dominican Republic. I've been to Japan. I've been to Haiti. Been to Jamaica. Been to Brazil. And Belize 2 weeks ago. And this is all since January.
Come on.
I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying this to tell you, these are the things that I envision for my life. And I went out there and got them. You start at your Z, you then go to Y, then go to X. What comes before X? Is that W? I think W comes before X. And then you work backwards, you reverse engineer it. I studied computer science at the University of California, Santa Barbara. I got my BS in computer science, went into the industry for a while. But I did this as part of my plan because I started from Z and worked backwards. I knew that my plan, I needed money for my plan. I didn't want to take out a loan. I said, you know what, I'm going to go into corporate America for a while, a very finite time, maybe 5-6 years, save up money, and then use that money for the jump to do what I really want to do with my life, the energy that I really want to encompass on a daily basis, right? So I did that. I said, you know what, corporate America, I'm done. I saved up a good amount of money. I'm going to do what I really want to do with my life. I'm going to move forward with this thing that I call I Love Being Black now. And so far, we're making leaps and bounds. We still have a lot more to go. But we work with black people all around the world, We just got back from Belize, like I said, about a week or 2 weeks ago, working with the Garifuna people down there. Amazing culture that I never would have known about had I not had this opportunity. So entrepreneurship, to me, it's all about opportunities. It's affording you something that you didn't have before. And one thing for me, I couldn't live the way I wanted to live with only 2 weeks of vacation per year to do it. Right? I want to do it the other way. I want everything to be about me and what I want and what I envision for my life and what I envision for my goals for myself and for black people, for my own family, and then everything else is secondary. Okay, so if I leave you with anything, just know that think about things from Z to A. Envision where you want to be at the very end, and then think about everything else after that. One of my favorite quotes is from the book called The Alchemist. Anybody read that book? Amazing book. Paulo Coelho, the author, he said, if you want something bad enough, the whole world will conspire to give it to you.
You say that one more time, brother?
If you want something bad enough, the whole world will conspire to give it to you. You just have to want it bad enough. You have to do the work. You have to put in the time. We interviewed a young brother, and I swear this is my last words, but we interviewed a young brother. He started college at 14, graduated at 17 with a BS in molecular biology from Florida Atlantic University at 17. I was like, geez, like how'd you do that? You know, we're interviewing now. I'm like, man, you're completely impressive and all this other stuff. He's like, well, you know, I was homeschooled until 5th grade. And after 5th grade, I was self-taught. I'm like, wait, does that mean you taught yourself? He said, yeah, the information's there. It's in these books. You just have to get it out of the book and into your head. He envisioned this and did something that a lot of people would think would be impossible. Now he's living his dream. He thought about his Z and he worked backwards. So that's what I have to share.
Thank you, Brother Kumi. Give him some love, y'all. Give him some love. The Mama Nicole.
Hello, everyone, and my name is Nicole Wiggins. I'm a parent leader for the AAMA. How I got involved with the organization, I have a young son. He is 16. He attends Oakland High. He is a junior. And I also have a daughter. She's a freshman at Oakland High as well. I had a son that had issues since day one. I'm going to say in preschool. My son was suspended the first week. So I went through a lot of crisis with my son. My son did not like school. And that really hurt me because I'm an educator and I love school. And I didn't get to finish high school, but I did go back and graduate and get my AA. So, but what it was, when my son told me, I don't like school, it wasn't that he didn't like school, he felt like no one cared. So all the way up to his freshman year, which he went into Castlemont, he started out pretty well, but fell through the cracks, okay? Because that is a critical stage for these young men to go into high school. Right now, it's a transition. He's trying to fit in. Who am I? You know, who are my friends? You know, the social media, you know, the girls, the hormones, the puberty, you know, the weed smoking. I'm just keeping it real because we got to talk about this. No one don't want to talk about it, but this is an issue. So it wasn't until my son was introduced to Mr. Sean Foster, who was his manhood development instructor at Castlemont, that brought my son and gave him the empowerment, the inspiration to tell him who he is and what he belongs and how he can grow up and be a man and learn and be critical in the right way, not the negative way. So as I seen the transformation of my son going into the 10th grade, I decided to take my son along and move to Oakland High School. And then I seen how my son start engaging. So the steps I took, I went to a parent workshop Mrs. Kim Ship was holding for the AAMA. Right then and there, I said, I want to give back because I seen the good job they had did for my son to where my son wanted to go to school. He wanted to learn. He dropped on friends that wasn't doing good. He started watching his surrounding, his environment. He started showing, people started showing him and teachers and family and myself high quality of care. Because if your child don't have that care, they're not going to be able to have the ability to learn and retrieve the information that the instructor is giving in that classroom. So we got to show these men high quality of care. On top of that they can beat the statistics. I don't want my son to be that statistics on the other side saying, oh, he going to prison, oh, he going to be on the corner selling drugs. I want my son to be that statistic, that percent that crossed that stage, that get that diploma, that's going to be ready for career or college readiness. So I got involved. Parents, you need to be very efficient and get involved. It's critical. It starts at home. We can't wait. We can't have these schools raise our kids. These are our children. We got to raise them. We got to take back leadership of our home. We can't let these kids run you. Back in the days, that wouldn't fly. Not in my household. Go to school and learn. And young men, take whatever you're learning from these positive and mentors and the organizations or whatever you're involved in, take that and lead it to success. Because we can make a change. Parents, I'm telling you, your voice is powerful. It's more powerful than a teacher, than a principal. You can get involved. I started going to the SSC meetings. I started getting on a board member. I joined other organizations outside with the community, working on Measure In, things of that sort. Get involved. Make sure you know what your child needs to graduate. You got to know the AG requirements for the USD. You got to know the 4 requirements of your child to graduate from the 12th grade. You got to know that. GPA 2.0, Pastor Casey, Senior Project, A through 3 requirements. And then if you have a child that's doing well, empower them to do more. Start taking AP honor classes. A lot of our African American men and Latinos is not in these AP honor classes. They can do it. Get your child in a collegiate college program. My son been in Mills Upward Bound for 3 years. He didn't even think about going to college. But now he's thinking about it. Holy Names have one, UC Berkeley. Get them involved. They athletes, stay on them. Get in their business. Watch them on social media, what they're doing on Instagram, Facebook. My son blocked me. He wouldn't let me follow him. So you know what I did? I had my daughter make up one and followed him that way. And then when I seen things inappropriate, I took away his phone. I said, no, you're not. You're supposed to represent AAMA. And Chris Chap will not be happy about what you're doing, brother man. But I want to say, it just take a lot of involvement. You got to learn to adjust your schedule. You got to make that space and time at home with your children. Your kids come home, my son come in right away. Oh, Mom, I had a good day, this, and that. At first, he wouldn't say nothing. You know, how was your day? And then if he tell me something that, oh, Mom, I'm having trouble in this and that, what I'm doing, I'm going up to the school. I'm telling you, when you get involved, and you get involved with the schools, and you up there, sitting in the classroom, whatever you're doing, you're going to benefit. Because it's going to help you. The teachers are going to be more effectively with your children. It's going to increase your child's academic. It's going to take you a long way. Because I didn't never think I would get there and have a son. By last year, 10th grade, he graduated 3.5. And he was on the African American Honor Roll. Both of my children. And this is from a young man that started off in 9th grade with 1.5. So we can do it. Let's take it back. Let's team up. Let's get involved. And let's stick with our sons. Let's keep these 3 E's that the AAMA says. Let's engage. Let's encourage. Let's empower.
That's right. That's right.
And this will go a long ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Mama.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Heather Gardley, and I'm an academic and career counselor at Cal State East Bay. I've been at Cal State East Bay for almost 10 years now. And during that time of me being at East Bay, I've seen a lot of things grow and change and decline. And one of those has been enrollment. So enrollment of our incoming freshmen, the enrollment of young men of color, black men, young black men in particular, but also the change in numbers of seeing them graduate. So pursuing their degree in a way that is most beneficial for them to be able to move through and not feel, what's the word I'm looking for? Just stagnant in their education. And a part of the way that we were looking to help those students along with that is by creating mentoring relationships with the students. Most recently, within this past year, I've been working on an initiative. We developed an African American Student Success Initiative that was looking to create a mentoring program for our new incoming freshmen, but in particular targeting our African American students, both men and women. And so with that, we were looking to really strengthen the mentoring roles of faculty and staff. So we have the African American Faculty and Staff Association that has about 150 members in it. And we were looking for ways that as faculty and staff that we could come to the aid of our students, whether that be through professional development, exposing them to opportunities within their major or the career field that they're looking to go into, but then also on the academic side of things. So if tutoring was needed or just any kind of guidance. So in my role as an academic advisor, having those conversations with them and really doing that check-in because it's a huge difference going from high school to college as far as that check-in process and just the transition that they make from high school to college. And I think that a lot of students are shocked, taken off guard a bit, that there weren't those same check-in processes and people available to them. We're dealing with a student population of 14,000. And of that population, Cal State East Bay, our African American student population is 10.9. We have the second highest African American population within the CSU, number one being Cal State Dominguez Hills in Southern California. And so, again, so the Kaleidoscope mentoring program is what it is, and we're just piloting that next quarter. So it's still in its infancy, and we're growing. But one of the things that I felt like was the most important that our students needed coming into college from high school was being taught self-efficacy. So the belief in one's own capability, your own power to be able to achieve your goals and reach outcomes. It's wonderful to have parent advocates, teacher advocates, but the students really have to know how to advocate for themselves and to truly understand and believe that they have the power within themselves to be able to reach those goals. And so for us at the higher education level, that goal is that degree. And so a lot of students were not receiving outreach in that way. And so again, looking at ways at how we can best reach out to those students. So whether it be the students that stay in the dorms on campus and housing, reaching out to touch them in that way, the students that participate in our clubs and organizations, Greek life, so our Black fraternities and sororities, what can we do to connect with them? Again, just some of the ways that we were looking to partner with and really strengthen our relationships with those students. Another role that actually had built into my job description was to be a liaison between our office, so we're the Office of Academic Advising and Career Education, to be a liaison between our office and the African American students on our campus. Because again, we just weren't seeing the number of African American students coming in for academic advising, for career advising, and so it was kind of a, well, where are they? Why aren't they coming? Don't they need advising? Don't they want to talk about career? And sometimes it was yes, sometimes it was, well, I'm not ready right now. But really seeking to reach them where they are. So if that means me going to a Sigma Gamma Rho or an AKA meeting and going to meet with those students to discuss career exploration or to discuss academic probation and how we can kind of help catch you before you do fall through those cracks, things like that, to be able to reach out to our students. So we're a work in progress. It ain't all glitter and gold. And so I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and come and speak with you all today. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Brother Frank.
All righty, thank you, Brother Chapman. Chris Chapman is one of our 100 Black men brothers, and I appreciate the opportunity to discuss with all of you what the 100 Black men of the Bay Area is doing to really uplift our community and to support our youth from graduation right through supporting them financially in college. We're a 100% volunteer organization of African American males, and our slogan is what they see is what they'll be.
That's right.
We have 4 major initiatives that support what they see is what they'll be. That's education, mentoring, health and wellness, and economic empowerment. We've created Wisdom Wednesdays, where our members, professionals like Brother Chapman, entrepreneurs like us, doctors, lawyers, accomplished brothers go into the high schools and serve as role models, meet and speak with our youth to let them know you can exceed the level that we've made it to. We have the Junior 100 in a variety of our inner city public high schools where our members go in and work with a concentrated group of youth, very often one-on-one, once again, a minimum of once a week, providing counseling, providing mentoring, providing support. We don't just leave it with academics and role model. Through our health and wellness, we have youth movement, where many of you, I'm certain, have been to the Tommy Smith track meet, which is held every year at Cal Berkeley. But we also sent last year a group of our youth to compete internationally in China. This year, we're sending a group of our youth to Australia to compete. Once again, keeping our youth healthy, keeping them well-educated, serving as the role model. We have the WalletWise program through our sponsor, Ally Bank, where we teach financial literacy, not just to young people, but also to the parents. We've given, since our existence here in the Bay Area, over $1.5 million worth of scholarships to our youth. And I just want to share with you very, very briefly, very crisply, one story that really epitomizes what they see is what they'll be. One of our members, Brother Christopher Perriman, owns a summer home at Discovery Bay and hosts the young scholars, the youth that we're giving scholarships to every year. A few years ago, we had all the youth up there, and a bunch of our members came up to really share with them our college experiences and prepare them for college, to give them the counseling that Heather mentioned that our youth really need. After that session and after a little barbecuing, we took them out on a variety of boats that belong to many of our members and jet skis. One of the young men, young brother about 17 years old, getting ready for college, will be in college in a few months, was on a jet ski, and we had maybe 4 or 5 boats and other jet skis. We're in the no-wake zone, moving slowly, and the Contra Costa County Sheriff's Shore Patrol comes out of nowhere, sirens on, and pulls the young man over. We noticed, we turn around our boats and came back and said, "What did you stop him for?" The sheriff's deputy looked out and realized that these were accomplished African-American males on their own boats saying, "Hey, wait a minute, time out, what's going on here?" And he said, "Well, he was speeding." We said, "Well, we were all doing the same speed." Well, he was going 1 mile an hour over the speed limit. So we looked at him. All of a sudden, he turned his lights on and said, "Luckily, I got another call." I say, luckily for him, he got another call, but even more lucky for the young man that was with us that realized that through hard work, through education, which leads to success, that you no longer have to be the victim to that type of harassment.
That's right.
We proved to the young man, we set the example, what they see is what they'll be. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Brother Frank. Thank you, Sister Heather. Thank you, Sister Nicole. Thank you, Brother Kumi. One more round of applause for our panelists, please. Give them some love. So in the spirit of time, we're a little after, and so I want to be able to move to the next piece of the rendering presentation. We're going to transition panelists back into the audience, please. And what I'd like to do is quickly check in with Brother Picasso, and then present the rendering, and then we're going to move to the Student Services Center. Thank you, brother. We'll move to the Student Services Center. We have food, and we're going to make our commitments. So at this point, and this is a good time, too, to get your cell phone ready and get your hashtags, get it all ready so you can take some pictures of this particular piece, and we can send it out capturing the essence, the spirit of the work today. You know, so what we can do, I did get questions, so if you put your questions on the cards, our Student Leadership Council, we meet the first and third Wednesday of every month. We collectively will provide responses. I'll tee up kind of which panelist could respond, but we'll follow up with everyone's email kind of as we have an FAQ. It'll be kind of an FAQ regarding response to the questions that folks tee up. So another way to follow up in the spirit of time. So thank you for that question, brother. Thank you for your grace and patience. And at this point, Brother Picasso, do you want to grab a mic? I don't know what the protocol is. Hold on one quick second. All right, y'all, get your cameras ready. And this will really go without any explanation. Brother Picasso's way of communicating really is through the canvas. And so we're going to have Brother Jamari and Brother Andres bring the rendering to the center here. And y'all, let's put our hands together for Brother Picasso. We appreciate you. We love you. This is brilliant.